This is the regular meeting of the Mobile City Council, July 12th. Please stand for our invocation, led by Council President C.J. Samal, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for waking us up this morning and starting our way. We thank you for letting us see a brand new day, dear Heavenly Father. We ask you, dear Heavenly Father, to please bless our city. We ask you to bless our country. We ask you to please bless the world. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Roll call. President Small.
Present.
Vice President Gregory.
Here.
Councilmember Penn.
Here.
Councilmember Carroll.
Here.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Here.
Councilmember Daves.
Here.
Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Statement of rules.
And good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Welcome to our July 12th meeting. At this meeting, we do have rules. At this time, I ask if anyone has any type of electronic device, cell phone, pager, etc., please put on the off or the vibrator position. The off or the vibrator position. Any person desiring to address the council must sign in indicating the resolution, the ordinance, appeal, or public hearing agenda item before entering the meeting. When addressing the council, the speaker must state his or her name and address. Any person desiring to address the council on a non-agenda item must contact the city clerk office no later than 2:00 p.m. on the Thursday prior to the council meeting. The subject that he or she wishes to express to the council must be identified to the City of Mobile business. Any person who has not given proper notice to the city clerk office and wishes to speak on a non-agenda item would not be allowed to address this council. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes to address the council. A bell will sound to indicate the end of 2 minutes. 1 minute remains for summarizing. The second bell indicates the time has expired. When addressing the council, there should be no personal address to any individual council members. All statements are to be made to the chair, who will recognize any council member who wishes to respond. To maintain decorum, there will be no undue applause and or public outcry allowed. Madam City Clerk.
Approval of minutes of July 5th.
So moved. Second.
Been properly moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Communications from the mayor's office.
Yeah, the mayor is traveling today, but he sends us regards. He's traveling on city business, and I'll make comments on his behalf. But as part of an ongoing effort to build a stronger community relationship, the Mobile Police Department will be hosting its third Community Days event. That will happen this Thursday, July the 14th, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. in Figures Park on Donald Street. There will be food, entertainment, and resources from community partners such as Bishop State Community College, the Mobile County Health Department, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Mobile and South Alabama, and Appoint Health, and many others. It will also give residents in the surrounding area a chance to engage one-on-one with Mobile police officers as well as public safety staff members. The City of Mobile has also temporarily closed the Pine Hill Recycling Center due to mechanical issues with the compactor. That closure will continue throughout today. We hope to have it up tomorrow as they continue to try to replace parts and repair the machine. During this time, the Mobile Recycling Center at Museum Drive remains open for collection, and you can also use the Mobile County location on Hit Road for recycling. Now I'm going to turn it over to Shonda, who is going to recognize the Public Works Employees of the Month.
Good morning.
Morning.
So one that was not on the list, and I'm going to honor her first, she's not here today, is Miss Rhonda. Miss Rhonda is with real estate, Miss Rhonda Lewis. They shared why they picked her as Employee of the Month. Rhonda has been with the city for 5 years and served as a real estate specialist in the Real Estate Asset Management Department. Rhonda goes beyond professionalism when dealing with other departments and the public. If she can't answer a question or provide a needed service, she reaches the issue and responds to the person needing assistance. Rhonda is very focused on long-term goals, but she also is willing and able to jump through hoops to handle emergencies. The main duty of the real estate department is to assist other city departments with their projects. Rhonda has become the go-to person for engineering, project managers, architectural engineering, and others. She is an asset to the department in the city of Mobile. She's not here, but I wanted to share that on her behalf. Next, I will call Michael down to present to Mr. Jermaine Eiffel.
This is Jermaine Eiffel. He has been with Parks and Recreation for 20 years. He is our June Employee of the Month. Jermaine is an incredibly hardworking individual. He is always positive, and if you absolutely positively need something done right, Jermaine is the man to call.
I just want to tell everybody thank you.
Not a man of many words.
And next, I'll call Dexter Johnson down to share the podium.
The Employee of the Month for Public Works is Napoleon Wilkes. He's been with the city for over 22 years. He started in sanitation, where he was classified, transferred to the street department. He's worked in several departments, including concrete cave-in, asphalt, dredge, flood control, storm drains. He's currently in our sweeper department on our hand crew. He's very knowledgeable in what he does. He has a good attitude. He's a very valuable asset to our department.
I'm a man with few words. I just want to thank everyone.
Thank you so much for y'all hard work, and congratulations to both of
Thank
y'all.
you. That concludes.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
That'll conclude the announcements.
Thank you, Chief Barber. I have invited two special guests this morning. This is very important to the city of Mobile. One of the special guests I had invited, we know that a couple months ago that Dr. Bert Eichel, our health officer of the Mobile County, had retired. Mobile County Health Department retired, and he was replaced by Dr. Kevin Michaels. And I invited Dr. Kevin Michaels this morning to come down to address the council and also to the city. First of all, to introduce himself to us, and also to tell us, and answer some questions from the council, if they have any, about this new wave that we're looking to experience with COVID. And ladies and gentlemen, our new health officer for Mobile County, Dr. Michaels. Let's welcome to the Mobile City Council.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted, on the 5th of July, I announced basically, based on the CDC recommendations, that we should, I recommend that in public spaces wearing protective masks to protect ourselves from COVID. There's been so in March and April, we hit our lowest point in the last couple of years, number of new cases. From that point on, over the last couple of weeks, we've had a steady rise in the number of cases of COVID. So in the last 14 days, we've seen anywhere from 56 to 72 hospitalizations. We've had 2 deaths, and we've had about 1,369 new cases reported in the community. Based on the CDC recommendations, anything over 20% positive rates reporting in from the community requires us to go to a high transmission for community, for community. So that's where the recommendation came from. It's a recommendation. It's not a requirement. Looking from the CDC's perspective, they're constantly monitoring for new variants. They have not seen any new variants of concern, but they're still tracking the Omicron and different subvariants out there in the community. But really the big thing that comes out, the vaccine that we have is effective. We have effective treatments in the community against COVID. The health department in the last couple of weeks, has now received vaccine from 6 months to whatever age range vaccine is available. So I want to encourage people from that standpoint. Does anybody have any questions?
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
And I was glancing on the national news on yesterday, and I guess, and even hearing from one of your employees about the new wave. And yesterday I heard something about A and B, and maybe the vaccines may not even protect us from this new something A and B. I was glancing and hearing from the news. I didn't catch it all. Could you speak on that just a little bit?
There are subvariants out there now. They're looking at BA 3 and 4. The vaccine is still showing to be effective. Yes, people do get COVID, and those that are vaccinated or had illness previously, their symptoms aren't as severe, but there's still cases where people end up in the hospital. And since the first of the year, we've seen 263 deaths. There isn't a new, we had the last one, the big concern was Omicron. Prior to that was Delta. They have not gone to another variant at this point in time here in the United States. So,
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Doctor, thank you for being with us today. I just have a couple of questions. You say we're running currently 50 to 70 hospitalizations a week. Was that right? A day. 50 to 70 hospitalizations a day. And do we know out of those hospitalizations how many of those people that have been hospitalized are unvaxxed versus those that are vaxxed?
No, we don't. I mean, I stand corrected. It's 50 to 72 in the hospital a week. I apologize for that.
Okay, 50 to 72 in the hospital a week. But we don't know how many of those are vaxxed and how many of those are unvaxxed.
No, we do not, sir.
Would that not be a good statistic to have?
Yes, it would.
Who would be responsible for gathering that statistic?
It would be the hospital to report it up.
Are you asking for it? I'm not trying to put. I'm not trying to put you under the microscope. I'm just asking.
It's based on the recommendations from the state and the CDC. They're not going and pointing fingers and saying you're not vaccinated or vaccinated. It really doesn't matter at this point in time. We just know those people who are vaccinated tend to have less severe symptoms. Fortunately, with the hospitalizations, not as many required ICU, basically in the intensive care unit, or required intubation on a ventilator. So either they've had prior illness or they were vaccinated. But the numbers that I've seen in the past is the vast majority of new cases are really coming from the unvaccinated group, but can't specify the exact number in the hospital.
And of the 263 deaths, I think you said we've had 263 deaths this year. Is that
223.
Right? 223 deaths this year. And do we know out of those deaths how many were vaxxed and how many were not?
No, we don't. At least it's not available to me at this point in time.
Thank you very much.
Anything else?
Any other council member?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Yeah, Mr. Jones.
Of the deaths that we've seen, how many had a comorbidity with them?
That's not reported. What's reported on the death certificate is related to.
Well, there was a news conference that was on YouTube that was sent to me from the Mobile County Health Department yesterday, and she said a majority of the deaths had a comorbidity with them. So it's got to be reported somewhere.
Typically, that's what you're going to see. Those people that are hospitalized are going to have a comorbidity, have another illness related, making it more complex for treatment.
Yeah, those are the numbers that we need to drill down on so we can make the best decisions and recommendations. Just like with, the number of cases, what does a case mean? There's a big difference between runny nose and fever than somebody that's going to go be intubated. And my understanding right now, based off of feedback that I've gotten from your health department, is a large majority of these cases are really just a cold, that's they're testing for COVID, but they've got all the symptoms of runny nose, fever, et cetera, that, very small impact.
But the fact that the common cold does not typically put a person in the hospital for 6 to 8 days.
But we're looking at a very small majority of the cases. When you talking 1,300 cases and you've got 10 to 15% that go to the hospital, that's not a large number of cases.
That's in the last 14 days.
So again, though, over the large percentage, we're talking a small percentage that's going to the hospital with COVID. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Yeah, Mr. Carroll.
Can I just ask you,
Yes, sir.
how do those numbers parallel with individuals that have the flu? Can you tell me that? How many people are going in that have the flu versus how many that are going in that?
We're not in the flu season as of yet. The flu season starts around September 1st.
I'd just be interested to see that. I mean, based on what you just said, 10% of the population over a year's time, city's 184,000 people. We're looking at 21,000 people that are going to have COVID. I think I said this a long time ago that COVID is here to stay. It's not going to ever go away. So, are we going to go into this wave system where we don't have our mask on and then we have them, then we take them off and then we're going to put them back on? Is that going to be the norm here, or are we going to reach a point to where we're never wearing the mask as if we did with the flu, and we're going to just live out our lives? That's the portion that people, I think, would want to hear, that would give some type of comfort to whether or not we're getting this under control. Because I turn around and I hear, well, we're going back through a spike, it's time to mask up inside again, and you start to get that grilled feel that maybe we won't go back to work and other things again from people. So again, if there's a correlation or if there's something that we can look at as a pattern or worst case, or what we should truly be looking at when it comes to COVID, because I mean, the reality is it's never going to go away. It's going to become like the flu, and we're going to be in a process where we're dealing with this all year, every year. So, your thoughts? How do we address that? I mean, are we going to constantly go through mask on, mask off?
Well, the recommendations are coming from the CDC based on high transmissibility, moderate, and low. Like I said, March and April, we were in a low stage. We started creeping up. The current recommendations from the CDC are, wearing a mask in large gathering spaces where you don't have the luxury of social distancing. Washing one's hands, if you're sick, staying home. Those are, that's sort of the layer effect of trying to protect those people that are at risk or perceive they may be at risk. Also, vaccination reduces the risk.
So your recommendation today would be for everybody in this auditorium to have a mask on?
Yes, sir. Based on, I went to a presentation by the state health officer. We were approximately about 100 people in the room. The best estimate is about 1% of the people in the room, or one person in the room, may have had COVID and could affect other people in close proximity. So.
Okay. I just wanted some clarity.
Any other council members?
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
Mr. Reynolds.
Congratulations on your new job, new role. My concern really comes from schools, the school standpoint, that we as parents, at least me, I don't necessarily want to go back to where all of our kids are wearing masks, and sometimes in our mind we think it's unnecessary. And if we follow the CDC guidelines to a T, as a recommendation, we may find ourselves back in that position. So my question to you is, at your direction, are you prepared to say not adopt the CDC guidelines to a T or their recommendations to a T in order to, protect our children from having to wear masks in schools or potentially shutting down schools, that sort of thing?
Right now, we have vaccines available for all ages. All right, so vaccinating children, especially school-age children, may reduce the risk both at home and in the school system. At the point of saying that everybody needs to wear a mask, I'm going to emulate what requirements are going through the community from that standpoint. Right now, it's a recommendation that there's no mask police out there enforcing it. It's based on individuals' decision they have to make whether they're going to wear a mask in that setting or not. So,
And I guess we'll get to the crux of my question is the Mobile County Health Department evaluating it on its local merits and not just blanket following a CDC recommendation that may not match quite as
we
clearly
are tracking the percentage of positives that are being reported in the community. Based on that percentage, greater than 20% of those that are tested, so 80% of the people that come in test negative, 20 plus or more are testing positive. Based on that, we're following the criteria from that standpoint.
And one last comment,
Yes.
and I'm done, and that is that kind of to Mr. Carroll's point is if we continue to test always and we continue to test and test and test, we may never find ourselves out of this hole. And my worry is that we may lead ourselves back to the position we were in, which was, masking our children and, virtual school and all that sort of stuff on a population that may not necessarily require that thing. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yeah, Mr. Penn.
congratulations, Doctor.
Thank you.
We're excited to have you in the city of Mobile. I believe that all the things that you're speaking of and talking about is recommendations, and I think that's something that we have to understand that, of course, my kids attend school. It's up to me if I want to allow my daughter to wear a mask based on maybe even any medical issues. I think that's the most important, that we have to understand that doctor is here to try to save lives. And if he present any recommendations, it's for that. And it's up to us to follow it. If we decide to wear the mask, okay. If we don't, that's our decisions. But I want to thank you so much for everything that you're doing for our city and our county.
Any other council members? And I'd like to piggyback behind Councilman Penn. Thank you for coming down and giving us recommendations. And I got mine with me too, because again, you don't know who have it. And I got elderly people in my family. I'm not trying to make them sick either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I do appreciate you so much.
All right, thank you.
And again, congratulations. And also, we invited Mr. Bud, well, I invite Mr. Bud McCord to come down. And again, he's the director of malls, and he's going to come down to talk to, address the council and answer any question the council may have of some things that have been affecting malls in the media lately. Good morning, thank you.
Hey, good morning, good morning. Thank you. Appreciate y'all having me here today. Very important topic that we've all had to address. I'm sure a number of y'all have heard a number of things about this. So I just want to kind of update you and answer any questions I can provide. PFAS. The EPA issued a health advisory on PFAS. They updated a health advisory. Basically, in 2016, they had a health advisory that stated 70 parts per trillion. 70 parts per trillion was the advisory that was issued. Now, understand that none of this is a regulatory compliance issue, okay? We issue out annually what's called our Consumer Confidence Report. It's on our website. We mail a copy to every customer we have. We provide this to everyone. Inside this consumer confidence report is a table. And this table is what we consider our platform that we operate under. The Alabama Department of Environmental Management issues malls a permit. About every 5 years, we get a water permit to provide and sell water to our customer base. In that, they give us permit limits, which is found in this document. Malls meets those limits in every manner in this document. And on our website, we've met it every year out. I think past 10 years is on there, and you can go view that, and I encourage you to do so. So what happened was EPA issues a health advisory for 70 parts in 2016. Well, June 15th of 2022, they change it from 70 parts per trillion to 0.004 parts per trillion, which is about 4 drops in a quadrillion gallons of water. So why did they change that? Technology changed. Technology changed and allowed measurements to go deeper now and to measure something less. So what the EPA recommended was, all right, I want everybody in the state to start testing and submit. And remember, this is a health advisory. This is not a regulatory compliance issue. So they did. Every state entity sent in their measurements. Every utility across the country measured this. And if you Google PFAS right now, it's a hot topic across the country. So the EPA, by making that change, they recommended to the entities, if you, when you took your measurements, exceed 1 part per trillion, we recommend that you send this notification out to your customer base. Malls measured between 1.6 and 2.2 parts per trillion. So we chose to mail a document to all of our customers to notify them of this possible health risk. And we did. A lot of utilities didn't. I'm not throwing stones at them. That was all their choice. But we chose to be transparent and notify our customers of this PFAS measurement. So what happens now? Well, by the EPA gathering this data and ADEM gathering this data, they will then, later this year, they will issue a draft requirement leaning towards the compliance, the regulatory compliance. We don't have that number right now. It could be 5, it could be 4, it could be 25. The EPA is studying that. Once they release that draft, we'll then begin the process to say, okay, we measured 2.2 to 1.6. We're outside the parameters of what they're going to require us and perform, now become part of our mapping system moving forward. Or we're not, and now we need to make adjustments inside our treatment process. In 2023, they will finalize that regulatory compliance issue. Again, if we don't meet it, we will then we're going to begin to make those now. Actually, we're investigating it now to determine what steps we need to take. And if they put a limit on us, it will then become part of this document. And I can assure you this utility will make sure that we meet that requirement that is placed upon us. I wanted to make this statement in the very beginning, and so I'll make it now. The mobile area water and sewer system water is safe to drink, and it is safe to utilize in every method you've used it prior to. It is safe. It meets every regulatory compliance issue that we are mandated by. Mr. Smalls, I'll take any questions we have.
Council, Mr. Days, and then Ms. Gregory.
Thank you for coming
Yes, sir.
down and speaking with us
Yes,
today. The new suggestion, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Mhm.
Could you used it as a one drop in. I think a lot of concern is wrapping your mind around what these numbers, what it really means. And so when you were when you were speaking, you said you used a number that was like 1 part in
4 drops per quadrillion million.
4 drops per quadrillion. 4 drops per quadrillion. And my question would be, is that achievable in a water system? Can you filter the water where you get it where you get this particular
Product to zero.
product to zero?
I'm not sure it is to get it to zero. And I think the EPA is studying that. I think what the EPA did is they gathered data as they normally do. You have to understand that this occurs often with wastewater treatment and water treatment. They start gathering data to determine, and then they have to look out there and they have to ask themselves, is there a treatment process capable of treating down to this limit? Reverse osmosis is something that we're going to be looking into. It's a costly feature, and if we have to do it, that's something we'll do. I don't think you can get it to zero, to answer your question. I don't. I think that it's minute enough, and PFAS exists, and I'm not, again, throwing stones at any other entity in the country we live in, but PFAS exists in a number of products. It exists in a number of nonstick cooking items, plastic products, and different things like that. It exists in sunscreen, just a number of products we use. But to answer your question, I don't think you can ever get it to zero.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
No, Ms. Gregory, then Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Bud, for coming down today. I appreciate your explanation, and I think that really helps us understand better exactly what is going on. What I think happened is when the letter went out, it was a little difficult to understand exactly what it meant and what it meant to us in our everyday lives,
Yes, ma'am.
especially with drinking water. In the media, we heard things like, well, what you need to do now is either drink bottled water or go out and buy a filter. And then we received emails from people who were reaching out to us because they said their neighborhoods were poor and they couldn't afford to filter their homes or, buy filters. So that was a problem. So, we always learn our lessons. Hindsight's 20/20. I understand that. So I just appreciate you explaining it to us, and then the efforts that you were making going forward to better explain to everyone in the city exactly what it means for us in our daily lives. The water is safe, you can still drink it, and what you were doing to make it safer.
Yes, ma'am.
So I appreciate that.
Thank you. And I will point this out, Ms. Gregory, just to follow up. We created an individual website / contact address to address any questions or concerns. And I encourage any customer, any leader in the organization, if we have any questions, please contact myself. This website we're responding as soon as we get it in. So we're doing everything we can to try to mitigate this issue now.
Well, I would also encourage not just the website, because, we talk social media all day long, but we also have to understand that not everybody has a computer,
Exactly.
Not everybody is tech savvy. So you might want to consider another letter in the mail, maybe with a bill, whatever,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
prefer, explaining very simply what it means to us and that the water is safe and what you were doing going forward.
Understand. Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
Thank you, and thanks, Bud, for coming down. We have gotten a lot of emails and phone calls. The sky is falling. When you send a letter out that they don't understand. What I am very curious of, and I haven't seen an answer from the EPA or ADEM, if we ever hit that 70 parts per million, they say that's unsafe. Okay, so what's the side effects? What's that going to do to our body when we hit 70 parts per million? Where's the risk? And if we're so far below that, to your point, again, and this is what I've been telling, the response to the constituents have been contacting me, I haven't made any changes just because the EPA puts this out. The water is no different today than it was in June, than it was a year ago. It's the same water that we're drinking. The EPA just came out with this, but I am very curious. And if we don't have that answer, I would hope that we go and ask ADEM and the EPA, what's the side effects, so we can put that out. Here's instead of, because the immediate thought process is, oh my God, I can't let my kids drink the water out of the faucet, because it's unsafe. What's reality? Where are we actually operating? What's the space we're actually operating in, and what's the risk? If we ever did hit that, which I think we're a long way from, when you start, I'm trying to wrap my head around what is a quadrillion gallons of water. Is that Big Creek Lake?
A ton of water.
A
lot of water.
To me, that sounds like a lake, right?
A lot of water.
4 drops. I mean, that's so minute, So, again, thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Mr. Carroll.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
I always find this funny. In a 20-ounce plastic container of water, how much PFAS is it?
I'm two things I would like to point out on that. First, I probably can't answer that. I will.
But let me make it easier.
Okay.
Is it better to drink water from the faucet in a glass, or is it better to drink bottled water that's plastic?
I will tell you that the mall's water meets every regulatory compliance issue that we are set before us. And I think we have some of the best quality and best tasting water in the Southeast. There are studies that have been performed on bottled water to where they have found PFAS in bottled water. They didn't list manufacturers, but they did find that. The two differences, malls is regulated by EPA and Alabama Department of Environmental Management. Bottled water is regulated by the Food and Drug Administration.
Exactly.
And they have not really dug into the PFAS.
They haven't thumbed them down yet. Or
That's exactly right. Yes,
also, what about, let's make it even easier.
Okay.
What about in a 20-ounce plastic container of Coca-Cola where the acid is eating the peat moss off the inside of the bottle and we're drinking it every time we drink Coke? I mean, the point is that sometimes you flip hats up here, but in the real world with environmental management and everybody else, regulations on the environment sometimes are a whole lot harsher than regulations that are in a plastic bottle that you're drinking out of in the store every day. And in some cases, the peat moss values in a plastic bottle of water is higher than what you're actually getting out of your sink. I would just say keep drinking the water because I am. I'm going to keep putting it in that plastic container too.
Yes, sir.
And I think that I really appreciate what you guys have done over the years out at Moss to make and can keep our water safe, especially what we just went through with the little contaminant out there and making sure that was contained. And I look forward to continue to drink the water. I still drink it out of the water hose outside, so I'm not scared too much.
We encourage that. Thank you. Thank you.
So, thank you.
Mr. President.
Yeah, Mr. Penn.
Thank you, Bud, for coming down.
Yes, sir.
I think that's what the community, the city need to hear. They just had questions.
Understand.
They have, we was receiving so many emails. I'm so grateful for my kids love water. If I have to buy bottled water all the time, it'll be a problem because that's all they drink is water. So, and we've been utilizing for since they was born. So thank you for your service, and I'm glad to be able to now take this information and also share it with my district because they did have some concerns about filtering buying. Now we have to, we can't afford this. Can you help in this area? So by you coming down here sharing this information, now we can share it to the residents in the city of Mobile and in our district. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment.
And other council members. Again, I do appreciate you coming down and explaining this to us.
Yes, sir.
Again,
Thank y'all
have
for
a
your
good
time.
day. Madam Clerk.
Adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Been properly moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Agenda is adopted.
Appeals, we have request for a waiver of the noise ordinance on July 16th at the Bragg Mitchell Mansion, September 24th at Cooper Riverside Park, July the 30th on Texas Street, and April the 8th in Langham Park.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Appeal passes.
Public hearings. Today is a public hearing to consider adoption of the City of Mobile Unified Development Code to replace the current zoning ordinance, Chapter 64 of the Mobile City Code.
This open up the public hearing for the adoption of the UD. This open up the public hearing for the adoption of the UDC code. At this time, I'm going to ask the city clerk to read those ones that have signed up. But this is a public hearing, and for the ones who have not signed up, you still will need to come down to the podium and give us your name and your address, and state 3 minutes again to comments to the council. Madam Clerk.
Barbara Smith.
name is Barbara Noel Smith. I reside at 912 Noel Street, Mobile, Alabama, 36608. I serve as the president of the Sandtown Community Action Group located in Spring Hill. On July 2nd, 2021, I sent a letter to the president, Linda St. John of the Village of Spring Hill, requesting involvement of the Black community in the Village of Spring Hill. The president responded approximately 2 weeks later by phone call. She explained that everyone on the board had a skill set that they provide to the organization, and others are not needed. She did not ask what skill sets we had. Sandtown members have many skill sets. 2 members have doctorate degrees, PhDs. There's an engineer, there's a teacher, there's an accountant, there's a counselor, and there are others in our Sandtown Community Action Group. The only skill we lacked was being white. Blacks are excluded from email lists and mail-outs on relevant information. There is a magazine publication that always features a white family in Spring Hill. I personally asked the president if we could ever see a Black family on the cover. No response was provided, and no Black family has appeared on the cover. If you ride through Spring Hill, construction of new homes in white neighborhoods is booming. Ride through Black neighborhoods, you see construction of businesses, many next to homes with Black families. The Village of Spring Hill has rejected all offers of Blacks joining the Village of Spring Hill in any capacity. We simply want to be a part of our community. This is a modern-day form of taxation without representation. You are asking us to live in our community where we have no opinion or involvement in the decision-making process that directly affects us and our families. On October 19, 2021, a supermajority vote of the council denied the passage of the UDC along with the TVS mandatory code. We hope that you will also reject these mandatory codes. I had 2 questions, but Mr. President, well, 3 questions, but I don't know if my seconds were added when I had to adjust the mic or what.
Keep going.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Mr. Council President, there are 3 questions that we would like to have answered. The first is, what are the defined boundaries of the Village of Spring Hill? The second question is, has a legal opinion been obtained as to whether or not 2 city council members serving as ex officio members on the Village of Spring Hill be allowed to vote on this matter? And the third question is, can it be explained with justification why the newly revised UDC code is not good enough for the Village of Spring Hill, and why would the code need to be mandatory? Thank you so much for your time, council members. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for coming down. The second question, I'm going to ask Ms. Biko later on,
okay,
to answer the first question. But the second question, as Mr. Days has stated, you can't respond back to me as our council rules.
Okay.
But neither one of those members of the council that you refer are members of the Village of the Spring Hill. And I believe that one of the council members had spoken of that the last time that was mentioned in the council meeting and everything. But thank you so much for coming down.
But perhaps
I'm sorry.
Their website.
Just pass it to the city clerk. Thank you so much. Madam Clerk.
Erica Jones. Following Erica Jones is Cameron Weevil.
One second. Chris, can you go ahead and respond back to that a request from Ms. Gregory? And you can come on down.
Yes, sir. On May 16th, President Small.
Can you speak a little bit closer to the mic?
On May 16th, President Small requested me to make a legal opinion on whether the issue raised by the speaker, that the counselors had a conflict, had any merit to it. And I do not believe there's any conflict of interest on this issue. And I think they're perfectly fine to vote for this. And if you want, I can go into all the details of why I made that decision. I've got it here. Can we go ahead?
No. That's okay. I believe they stated that they wasn't members.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Not voting members. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Reynolds.
I know we're just getting started with this public hearing, but I just wanted to make a reference to our council rules in regards to public hearings, where the rules state those speaking on the subject will be limited to 4 spokesperson on each side of the issue. So 4 for the issue, 4 against the issue, for a total of 5 minutes per person.
Mr. President, I would ask that Mr. Reynolds allow the council to relax rules. We want people to be heard, not smothered on some issues. I think this issue may be of importance to everyone that is involved and may want to be heard. I think as discussed today in pre-council, it was stated that some feel like they are not allowing to be heard and being smothered out. And I think that this time we may need to allow it.
Yeah, and I would ask the same thing. We need to put it to a vote. We can, but I would ask if we can relax the rules and hear all the parties.
Yes, sir. I'm in favor of that, and I'll make a motion that we waive the rules with regard to 4 speakers on either side of the issue for this particular issue.
Second. Properly moved, second in discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you, and good morning, everyone.
Morning.
My name is Erica Jones, residing at 1463 St. Stephen's Road, but property owner in Sandtown, which is in Spring Hill area. And regarding my where I grew up in my homestead property, I'm here to reiterate the need to vote no for the UDC because it poses an immediate threat to people who reside in the Sandtown community. I have a map here, and I've heard several times that there's a misunderstanding about exactly where Sandtown is, and people think it's on the north side of Spring Hill Avenue, but this map, which came from the community development, the city of Mobile years ago, before I was a child when this was developed, reflects the fact that Sandtown is both on the north and the south side of Spring Hill Avenue and encompasses property owners and residents in that area without the threat for many decades of commercial development and encroachment in that area. And that is what we're still struggling with and would like your assistance in protecting the residential and the quality of life of the property owners in that area. Now, I know a lot of times you want to see a large showing of people who come, but a lot of people who live in that area are working class people. They're people attending college. They're people who are retired, people who have challenging physical limitations that don't allow them to come and spend, part of their mornings here in a meeting like this because they don't have the flexibility and the freedom of time, but they are represented. We had a young man who, just graduated from college, who, we're very proud of in our community, but, you'll see a lot of them on church on Sundays, but in the middle of the week, they're at work and they're at school and they're doing other things that would don't allow them to be here. So we just wanted to, let you know that it's not just a few of us. And we need a safe zone in Sandtown to protect our residential, relaxed, serene quality of life, because that's why people moved to that area. They didn't move there to be crowded out by commercialism and development and bars and, all these fast-growing, shopping centers and those kinds of things. And that's exactly what they're trying to do, to crowd us out, make it very uncomfortable and make an unsafe overall feel in that community. And we would like to, have your help, enlist your help in resisting that in this community, because, these people You know, a home is oftentimes the biggest investment you'll ever make. And so you want to have peace. You want to feel safe. You don't want outsiders coming in and parking all over your sidewalks and those kinds of things, and businesses all over and strangers coming in. So I think that, for Sandtown, we definitely need those safe zones. It's a historical area as well, as we know. It's a community that was founded well before the Civil War ended. And it was primarily people of color, free persons of color, and indigenous people who established this community. It was an agrarian society. And, and it's grown from that. And, we want to maintain the sovereignty of the history of that area. And so we need protections from commercial encroachment and development. And we need to play up the historical relevance and significance to this area, to the city of Mobile, and to the United States. This is American history. We need to be able to feel safe in our neighborhoods. And like I said, once again, if you can just vote no on this UDC until protections from commercial encroachment and development can be provided within the UDC for this particular area and for all of our citizens. I mean, we all deserve it, but especially here, we would definitely appreciate that. And we're hoping that we've been heard. We've been here a number of times, and I believe that, we're making progress. We're getting through to a lot of people. And so, we're optimistic about the future. We want to be a part of positive progress, and we'd love to see more people move in and be residential. But this commercial development, it takes away from the quality of life, I believe, in this area. And we want to maintain that. So whatever you can do to assist us, we would be forever grateful. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any questions for me?
Council.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Cameron Weevil, followed by Bob Chappelle.
Good morning, distinguished members of the City Council. My name is Cameron Weevil. I live at 31 Lee Street, Mobile, Alabama, 36604. I am the immediate past president of the Mobile Area Association of Realtors. We are an organization 1,500 members strong that sell Mobile every day. I'm also the vice president of the Weevil Company. We are a commercial real estate brokerage and development firm in Mobile. 6 years ago, Mayor Sandy Stimpson asked me to join his Map for Mobile campaign, which was designed to do just what his goal was, which was to make Mobile a safer and more business family-friendly city. This map helped us create what we now call the Unified Development Code, or UDC. As you know, the Mobile Area Association of Realtors and their support teams spend every day selling Mobile to current and prospective residents and businesses. As Mobile competes with other cities for new residents, businesses, and industry, our successes create and expand the economic engine employing our people. The Unified Development Code is an unprecedented effort by the City of Mobile to have citizens participate in the creation of an ordinance which impacts our quality of life. As part of the UDC process, hundreds of meetings were held and thousands of comments were received from various versions of the UDC. The Board of Realtors and several community interest groups worked with city staff to form a document that creates a delicate balance across competing interests. The UDC is not a perfect document. It is not a document that provides us as a development group everything we want, nor did other community groups receive everything they wanted. However, the latest UDC version provided every interest group with elements that are important to them, creating a balance between our interests and serving as a foundation to move the city forward. As with any delicate balance, any minor changes to this document may tip the scales, creating an uneven balance. As 5 years of hard work, thousands of comments, hundreds of meetings with participation by our entire community went into this document, we discourage any changes or edits to the current UDC version, and we look forward to working with the city to adopt the UDC as written. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob Chappelle, followed by Linda St. John.
Members of the City Council, good morning. My name is Bob Chappelle. I live at 3003 Bryant Road. That's 36605. I serve as Chief Operating Officer at the Mobile Chamber. The Chamber has supported the city's effort to create a modern zoning code that will keep the city competitive both regionally and nationally. Our leadership has been engaged from the beginning of the process, including meeting with city officials and providing comments as the draft ordinances progressed. We've also worked to keep our membership engaged and informed on each new version of the draft ordinance. Modernizing and updating Mobile zoning ordinance is vitally important to keep Mobile competitive with the cities that we compete against for jobs and investment. And we recognize this process has been a huge undertaking, and we especially appreciate the efforts of the city staff, planning commission, business community, and certainly you, the Mobile City Council member in this process. I'll conclude by simply asking that you adopt it to replace the current zoning ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda St. John, followed by Carol Hunter.
Good morning, Linda St. John, 320 Avalon Street. For the past 16 years, the Village of Spring Hill has partnered with developers, commercial property owners, any resident, state of Alabama, Mobile County Commission, the City of Mobile, and local foundations to raise millions of dollars for the City of Mobile to implement projects of our master plan that benefit all residents of Spring Hill. We have built complete sidewalk network, parks, civic spaces, streetscapes infrastructure, and planted over 400 trees. Through the success of these and other projects, we have gained broad-based community support. I'm here today representing the 600 people who initially participated in developing our master plan 16 years ago. And I am the voice for over 2,500 dues-paying members who live in Spring Hill. I'd like to address some of the misconceptions being published on the Sandtown website and other misconceptions by a few existing commercial property owners. The first is that the Village of Spring Hill is building a commercial center in the heart of Sandtown. In fact, the properties being referenced in that statement fronting North McGregor Avenue have already been sold to developers and rezoned commercial by the City of Mobile, not the Village of Spring Hill. That the Village of Spring Hill is splitting Sandtown in half. In fact,
Hold on, stop a minute. In the beginning of this meeting, I stated that we have rules. And the first thing that I said that, I asked, anyone that have electronic device, put on the off or vibrate position. The off or vibrate position, again, is out of respect because of the speakers and this meeting. And again, I'm going to ask that anyone that has any type of electronic device, please put on the off or the vibrate position, the off or the vibrate position at this time. You start a minute back up. Go ahead.
okay, the second misconception is that the Village of Spring Hill is splitting Sandtown in half. In fact, Spring Hill Avenue splits Sandtown in half, and no properties north of Spring Hill or south of Spring Hill, no residential properties north of Spring Hill or south of Spring Hill are impacted by the Village of Spring Hill plan. That Sandtown was not allowed to participate in the Village of Spring Hill plan. In fact, 22 articles were published in the newspaper with times and dates of meetings stating it was open to the public, as well as 10,000 informational brochures bulk mailed to all residents in the boundaries of the village with information on how to participate. The Village of Spring Hill is a group of corporate developers that don't live in Spring Hill. In fact, the Village of Spring Hill is made up of 2,500 dues-paying members of the Spring Hill community, and not one is an out-of-town developer. The master plan does not include any residential properties, only 4 existing commercial properties. It does not rezone property. Only the City of Mobile has that authority. It does not require property owners to make any changes or investment in their properties unless they expand over 50% of their existing footprint. It does not give our organization any authority to determine where a road will be built. And it will not create parking issues. The parking ratios are the same as our historic districts already established by the City of Mobile. Our plan is less impactful to adjacent residential properties than the City of Mobile because it requires a green screen buffer and the buildings to be moved up to the street away, further away from residential properties. Smart growth plans like the Village of Spring Hill master plan have been applied to development of cities all over the world for many years, including great southern cities like Charleston and Savannah. The benefits to the residents, commercial property owners, and the developmental community has been well documented. Your vote today to make the Village of Spring Hill ordinances mandatory will empower all citizens of Mobile to improve their communities, all of them. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any council members? Thank you.
Thank you.
Carol Hunter, followed by Jeff Quinley.
Good morning. I'm Carol Hunter. I live in the 4700 block of O'Shell Road in Mr. Dave's district. I'm here to speak in support of making the development guidelines for the Village of Spring Hill a requirement for new commercial development and major redevelopment. As stated in the UDC draft, the city has created the Spring Hill overlay to enable and encourage traditional, walkable village and neighborhood centers and bring balance between vehicular and pedestrian-oriented design. Creating a walkable neighborhood has huge benefits, not only for the 4 commercial corridors directly impacted by the requirements of this overlay, but for the residential areas surrounding those corridors. Across the country, home values in walkable neighborhoods are anywhere from 25 to 103% higher than in car-dependent ones. As a homeowner in this neighborhood, I welcome this outcome. Commercial property in walkable neighborhoods also fetches a premium, with rents averaging about 37% higher than in other areas. I imagine the vast majority of commercial property owners in the neighborhood also welcome this outcome. About 10 years ago, after a 2-year public input and review process, the City Council adopted the Downtown Development District Code, whose principal goal was to create a more walkable neighborhood. And by this, we don't just mean neighborhoods where you can walk. And I've made this point before, but I think it bears repeating. Even a highway with a sidewalk is a place you can walk. But walkable communities are places you want to walk because the building frontages and the setbacks are welcoming for pedestrians. Parking lots are not adjacent to sidewalks. Buildings offer mixed uses, and traffic is calm. This is what the UDC would accomplish. In the years since that Downtown Development Code was adopted, our city center has seen an explosion of development, more than $100 million worth. Residential rental rates are among the highest in the city, with a near 100% occupancy rate. This would have been unimaginable 15 years ago. Before the code was adopted, developers had long had the option to create projects that conform to what became the code, but very few were willing to take the risk. Developers will invest in neighborhoods like downtown because of the predictability the mandatory code provides. They are more willing to renovate existing buildings and construct new ones if they have the assurance that projects next door or down the street will enhance their investment, not diminish it. Voluntary guidelines create a hodgepodge of conflicting development that discourages both investment and all of the economic, health, social, and safety benefits of walkability. Across the country, there is increasing demand for walkable communities by people of all ages, but especially among younger and even older generations. If we want to grow this city by retaining and attracting residents, we must create the kinds of neighborhoods they desire. Thank you.
Thank
you. Jeff Quinley, followed by Richard N.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Quinelli.
Live at 3751 Shipes Lane in Spring Hill. Been a resident for 20-plus years. And I just wanted to, I'm a developer and wanted to say that I'm in full support of making the Village of Spring Hill Code mandatory. I think it's what we need to propel our community forward. And as a developer, I'm very proud of all the things that the Village of Spring Hill has done. They've done a great job. Our community's looking better and getting nicer. And obviously, we're willing to invest in our community and develop commercial and bring in new jobs for people and hopefully new residents to the area. But we're in full support of the Village of Spring Hill being mandatory.
Thank you.
Richard Inge, followed by Mary Frances Craig.
Good morning. My name is Richard Inge. I own Inge & Associates Real Estate, Commercial Real Estate Investment Development. I live at 4110 Ridgelawn Drive. I'm here once again to ask that you please vote the Village of Spring Hill overlay be included as a mandatory part of the UDC. Having the Village of Spring Hill overlay included as a mandatory, not optional part of the UDC is extremely
Could you hold on for 1 minute, sir? Let's start with, hey, excuse me, hey, who's this group up here? Who's responsible for this group up here? Hey, could you bring the explorers back in? I mean, so we can at least know who these young people are. And we're going to start your minutes back over, sir. Excuse me. Yeah.
Good.
But I just want to recognize our young people as much as we can. And they came in later on. If there's a spokesperson for this group, yeah, if you can just come down and just introduce yourself. You look nice in uniforms and everything, and I hate for you all that leave and go out. Let us, the city council, know exactly who you all are. Oh, okay. Yes. Ms. Borkin, okay, I didn't see you, okay.
I'm a retired Sergeant Elsie Boykin.
Speak in the mic a little bit.
I'm the retired Sergeant Elsie Boykin from Mobile Police, and this is Captain Marks with the Bridger Police. We have a Joint Youth Exploring Academy. This is our second academy. Prior to COVID, we had the first academy, and when we have them, we have these academies for our youth explorers that's interested in the option of exploring police, law, administrative government, and criminal law. We bring them down to observe each city council in the different cities, including my city, Mobile, and hers, Pritchard.
Okay. It's good to see y'all, diverse group.
Yes,
and everything. I just wanted to acknowledge you all. And again, it's good to just see this young people looking very productive in our community. Thank y'all so much for coming and everything. Sir, I do apologize for interrupting you, but I just like to recommend our young people as much as I can.
Yep, no problem.
And we can just start his minutes all over. You can just start all over.
Okay. My name is Richard Inge, owner of Inge & Associates Real Estate Investment Development. I live at 4110 Ridgelawn Drive, and I'm here once again to ask that you please vote that the Village of Spring Hill overlay be included as a mandatory part of the UDC. Having the Village of Spring Hill overlay included as mandatory, not optional part of the UDC is extremely important to me and my team. It will not only protect our current investments, but it will encourage new high-end development and keep all developers held to the same standards. My partners and I own and manage numerous commercial properties within the village, roughly $20 million. And I personally hesitate to continue to invest and develop within the village when other developers are not required to adhere to the same standards. I'm in full support of the Village of Spring Hill Master Plan, the Village of Spring Hill overlay being part of the UDC. I've been working hand in hand with the Village of Spring Hill Board and Linda for many years. and I think we can all agree that their hard work is responsible for much of the drastic improvements inside the village over the last 15 years. They've done an exceptional job. Voting to include the Village of Spring Hill overlay as a mandatory part of the UDC will push the Village of Spring Hill forward in the direction Mobile needs to go. Please, please, please vote today to make the Village of Spring Hill overlay a mandatory part of the UDC. It is vital to the future of our Spring Hill community. Thank you for your time and support on this matter.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mary Frances Craig, followed by Geneva Gale. Craig is.
Good morning. My name is Mary Frances Craig, lifelong resident of Sandtown, historical Black area. I'm here this morning, where I reside at 3838 Mordecai Lane, the left out area of any improvements of any type of intention to destroy our beautiful neighborhood. I have only been out of my neighborhood, for a 2 weeks period. I've been there 83 years, have seen all the improvements. We are proud, hardworking people. My parents, my grandmother, all the generations in this neighborhood has been there. And now, after being there all those years, been through segregation and all, have never been afraid as I am now. Why am I afraid? Because of the attempt to destroy our neighborhood. We have no representation from our council person. All decisions are made. We are not notified. We don't know anything of what's going on, but yet we're supposed to be represented and united in the community. Why don't we have that? Ask our council representative. I'm not here to tell any untruths. I'm here simply to speak the truth. We, me in particular, live right across the street from the new fire station that we had no opportunity to have any input. Their master plan, who was drawn up by an out-of-town architect, didn't have anyone here in Mobile worthy or knowledgeable to design what they are trying to do now. In it, I was fortunate enough to read a copy, and it specifically stated that the immediate residents have input. You know who the immediate residents were? The Mordecai, the Shites Lane, the Spring Hill Avenue, and of course the Knowles Street. Were we invited? No. Why? Because we don't matter. So everything was drawn. Now, this organization, Village of Spring Hill, I hate to say it, but they have brought back division and blatant racism, totally ignoring us as Black. So therefore, they're going to do whatever. And I don't know why people can't see through what's going on. And most of the time, they have new people instead of the same people following them. I'm asking you all, the council chair, as well as all you council people, the new ones in particular, yeah, they be coming down here 16 years and brought it to their attention of what was going on. Finally, you all as a council group, not the new people, but caught on and understood the unfairness being dealt to us. So they voted this down. Now you all have entertained it again. I'm asking you, please don't let this organization manipulate and use you all's intelligence. Today is what you've done in the past to help us. And remember, if you undo what's been done for fairness now, the same articles, regulations that you vote on, somebody could come back and undo you. Would you like for that to happen? Would you like to say, this happened to my mother or whatever? We have two old neighbors right now, and please let me say this, have word themselves.
I apologize, and I hate to cut you off, but your 3 minutes has expired and everything, but thank you so much and everything.
I understand, but I hope you vote no.
Thank you
and
so
vote
much.
in our favor, please.
Thank you so much. Madam Clerk.
Geneva Gales, followed by Bruce McGowan.
Morning.
Good morning.
I'm Geneva Gales, 925 Nose Lane, Mobile, Alabama.
Put on the mic just a little. Thank you.
My family has resided in Spring Hill since the 1800s. When our ancestors purchased 20 acres of land from the north side of Spring Hill Avenue between North McGregor and Tut Hill, just short of Tut Hill Lane, area is currently called Sandtown. He donated land for a cemetery. Later, a church and a school was started. These historical landmarks still are a part of our heritage, of our legacy. As a board member, secretary, and member of the Sandtown Community Action Group's UDC committee, I've been asked to read this letter that was previously presented to the council for the record, just in case you guys didn't have an opportunity to read it. I would love to instead respond to some of the things that have been said against us, but here we go. We represent the property owners of Sandtown, which includes areas south of Spring Hill Avenue, and Shipes Lane, Mordecai Lane, and McGregor Avenue north of Spring Hill Avenue. Despite certain voices that continue to try to relegate Sandtown to just the north side of Spring Hill Avenue, Sandtown is all of that area. Please see attached the City of Mobile map outlining areas in traditional Sandtown that was used to justify community development federal grant funding. You will see the Mordecai and Shipes Lanes are clearly indicated and includes the area all the way to the north just below the Cedars. With the UDC vote incoming on Tuesday, July 12th, we are once again requesting a safe zone and protections from commercial encroachment and development as we have many times before. Please hear us. We are in District 7, and we have been asking for these protections from our representatives and we have not been heard. Our representative has not reached out to us, provide protections despite multiple attempts to communicate our concerns over impending commercial development. Just as Africatown has a safe zone in the UDC, why haven't we received safe zones and protections from commercial encroachment? We don't feel safe in our neighborhood, and we need protection. Just as Africatown is relevant historically to the city of Mobile and the greater United States, we at Sandtown yield significant historical value to the city of Mobile and United States. We don't feel safe in our neighborhood, and we need protection. The Village of Spring Hill overlay does not provide us with such protections. Quite the contrary. Please vote no until such protections and the state safe zone for our Sandtown can be provided within the UDC. Now, evidently, I have a few more minutes. Good. I read real fast. Our letter on the website was in response to St. John's letter, Ms. St. John's letter. They talked about walkable neighborhoods and convenience to some and not convenience for us. Who wants to look out their window at a bunch of buildings and parking lots? That's not good for us. That sends our land value down. We have been there. I can remember when we weren't even allowed to live in the same neighborhood. The fact that the ex officio members, it's already been discussed, I'll take that. However, there is a connection. There is a friendship. And anytime somebody says that a driveway cannot go into a residential neighborhood, which goes right into my cousin's front door, he can't get out and in and exit in the same spot, going out into McGregor. He can't get it because there's a building there. But once he got the council to approve that he could have an exit on McGregor, an exit on Shipes Lane, and an entrance on McGregor, he tore the building down. Now he has an exit. He has an entrance and an exit. So, I mean, we know you guys are working together. I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
I wish I had more time to just go into some other stuff, but
Thank you.
thank you. And I hope you guys will vote in the right way.
Bruce McGowan, followed by Melvin Jackson.
Good morning. Bruce McGowan, 250 Levert Street. I'm here in my capacity as attorney for the Alabama State Port Authority. And on behalf of the Port Authority, we fully support the UDC as it's currently written. And the Port Authority thinks this will help improve economic development and the entire growth of the city of Mobile, and urges the City Council to pass the UDC as it's currently written. Thank you.
Thank you.
Melvin Jackson.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for hearing us again today. I'm so proud of my community. I'm so proud of the people that got up and spoke today. These are not people that do this very often. I'm not one either. I've been down here a couple of times now, and you're starting to get to know me. I want to tell you this.
Just give us your name and address.
Let me start with that. My name and address, my name is Melvin Jackson. I live at 3802 and a half Spring Hill Avenue. I'm so proud of where I live. This is the reason why. We have been there since 1848, and I live in the seat of the first person that was an owner in our area. They gave a church. They gave a cemetery. They are the remnants of a school. And there is...
Hold up, Mr. Jackson.
Yes, sir.
Stop this minute. I'm going to ask one more time. This is a professional meeting, dignified meeting. any type of electronic device, please put on the off or the vibrate position. If you need to speak on your electronic device, please step out of this meeting. Okay, it's a respect to this council, respect to the person that's speaking, and respect to the audience. Please, due to the council rules, let's starting back up. And I do apologize. I just want people to respect you. Okay.
Thank you so much. What I want to say to you is that Sandtown has grew uniquely as a grassroots area. From 1848, Gilbert Fields was the first man, a liberated black man. It's a difference between liberated and free. Liberated found their own way to freedom. No one gave it to them. Escaped slaves in Spring Hill, and we have the proof of that. That wound up buying their own property, starting a community, a church, a school, a cemetery that bears the bodies and the evidence of those people that are there. Also in our community is the last slave home, or the last slave quarters of all of Mobile. In our community that you may have passed 1,000 times and didn't even know it was there. You want to know where it is? Right across the street from the new fire station. Some of you have been in to see the art of the gentleman that owns it. He's had art showings in this building, and you walk through these slave quarters, bought some of his artwork. It's a beautiful, thing that they did. What we're trying to save in our community, Mobile has already acknowledged. Since 1848, that's before the Clotilda. 1848, they fought to keep their property. So they have given blood, sweat, and treasure in order to create a free community. I just gave you all this little document here. It came from the city of Mobile, and in it, it shows our boundaries. 3 Mile Creek all the way to the Cedars. We know what gentrification is. We know what it looks like when we see it in our communities. We ask that the greater council help us to reduce this influx of commercial business. That's what Ms. St. John's represents. That's what Spring Hill Village is. And she'll tell you, she said it in the planning commission that she didn't want residents and she didn't have any black people on her board or in her membership. That should tell you exactly what they are doing. If we cannot stop this atrocity, and they keep calling it a master plan, we call it a disaster plan for our community. It's a disaster plan. It is in the middle of our community. When you look at this document, and we just found it the other day, because here in the city of Mobile, when we've asked for help to identify the borders of our community, we haven't gotten it. They keep saying that we were invited. None of that. She's said right here, Ms. St. John has said right here at this lectern that she plastered O'Shell Road with all of this information. That's our community. Spring Hill to, Sandtown. Sandtown, that's our community. We weren't invited to these. And these new members that they have on, you want to know why it took 16 years? 16 years of accidents, mistakes. They were inputting things that had never been agreed to. We are asking for your protection from predatory commercial development in our community. We are begging for your assistance. You can help us. These people, like these older Sandtown individuals, they don't have the protections from a business that may start off as a trendy restaurant, bodega, or whatever, that eventually turns into what it is in Lodi. That's exactly what's going to happen. Okay, they were trendy restaurants and whatnot. That's what was in Lodi. that eventually turns into bars and saloons. Could you ever vote for that in your community? And if you couldn't do that in your community, how could you do that to ours? A historical community. Is it in the middle of our community? Yes. McGregor Avenue connects that entire community. This is exactly why we don't want this degradation. And if it can happen here, it can happen in any of our communities, black, white, it doesn't matter. We need to be heard, and there needs to be no overlay in Sandtown. We are asking you to vote no. Since you can't divorce it from what we're doing, then I just ask for your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, this is a public hearing, and you did not have to sign up for a public hearing. Is anyone else in the audience that has not spoken that would like to speak on this particular public hearing? You may do so by coming down to the podium now by stating your name and your address.
Timothy Hollis, 1924 Seal Street. Good morning, President Council.
Good morning.
Now, I'm a resident of District 1, and I'm not directly a resident to Sandtown or have much affiliation as part to how I sleep at night and how they sleep at night. But one thing I can assure you is that my grandmother sleeps in Rising Sun Cemetery, and she's been there since 2004. So therefore, I'm invested with the same beliefs that these citizens have for their community. I also know that Rising Sun Cemetery is somewhat in the same shape as the Africatown Cemetery was about 3 years ago, needing much cleanup, much care, much protection. So if we're not going to vote to make this UDC work for both sides of the aisle, for both sides of Spring Hill Avenue, because this is one Mobile that we live in, if it's not going to protect the citizens of Sandtown, then it shouldn't protect the citizens of the Spring Hill Village. Because I live in Tomanville and we want walkable neighborhoods too. We have neighborhoods that don't have sidewalks and streets and things, and we have plethora of schools where children don't have these things. So the very same things that these people are coming down here saying that they would like to see in their communities, we would like to see it too. So if you want to move forward and go on with your plans, start inviting the people of Sandtown to your meetings. Make it fair. Make it one Mobile. I rest.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, to the citizens and stakeholders of Mobile, I believe it's still morning. Before I get into the sentiments, and I know this is to the delight of Mr. Days, me being able to speak twice today. So, Reggie Hill, 1007 Center Street, and I'm a little shocked. I don't remember what 5 minutes felt like. It's been a while. But anywho, I want to take the time to commend Ms. Biko and Ms. Margaret, Attorney Rossler, for the work that they've done thus far in this. I know that it's been a strenuous process in doing so. And regardless of what position you have with this, to be in a place to make decisions, it can cause a lot of scrutiny. And so I do want to send my regards to them for their efforts, because regardless of what we feel, they still are reflecting and representing the city. So I had a few questions, because there are some sentiments that I believe have just been overlooked throughout this process. And I'm going to get to that a little bit later today too, how much of the needs of the citizens are just ignored. Most times we come down here and basically how we're just looking now, that's all we get. Yet the taxpaying resources are what fund any operation within the city. Taxpayer funding. And we're not considering the taxpayer. So I just have a few questions. Hopefully they could be answered. Because these were my disputes when this kind of started years ago. Because there were always threats that the decisions being made would not come back to this body. It would not come back to this chamber. So just for a point of clarity, because I'm sure a lot of people don't know, on the Planning Commission, does the executive branch or the legislative branch appoint members to the Planning Commission?
This is a, just go ahead with your court, this is a public hearing, Mr. Hill, just go
Well, I
ahead.
would like to hear you respond to the answer.
This is a public hearing. Yeah.
On the UDC. So the reason I asked that, because this is what, chapter 64 of the Mobile Municipal Code we're considering replacing, correct? And that deals with zoning, correct? Zoning does come back from planning commission, correct? So there's a planning commission that's going to be not only notated within the documentation, they're going to have a pivotal role in deciding how we develop the city. Y'all are trying to refute or deviate from the idea of zoning not being in there, but if you redevelop something, you have basically altered the zoning. So the question again, is the planning commission appointed by the executive or the legislative branch of our municipal government? That's the question I'm asking, sir. Is that too hard to answer?
This is not a question and comment. We are hearing comments from, questions.
Okay, well,
and
the reason why is because if that is the sentiment, why would you be shocked, number one, the complaints that you're hearing? Because these people are having plans made around their quality of life with no consideration, with no representation. Where can you show within the new UDC code that when something is presented by the Planning Commission, when these developments are made, that the people can have the surety, the security in coming down here knowing that that can be changed? Where can you point to that? Because that's why they're down here. They're saying people can go and develop in their communities without having the opportunities for their voices to be heard and for what they want to see in their neighborhoods, what they pay taxes to be adhered to.
I'm going to ask you to lower your voice and speak just like everyone else has spoken.
Sir, with all due respect, I'm going to say this,
With all
Charlie.
due respect, I'm going to ask you again, Mr. Hill. Thank you.
I'm being very cordial, and I'm showing great decorum because y'all can't answer a simple question about who's in the Planning Commission. So I would ask you to do that. Answer the questions, please. So again, can someone please point out, and maybe Ms. Biko would be necessary for this, would someone please be able to point out where in the UDC citizens who are feeling that they are being overlooked can have the security to know that if there's something brought before the Planning Commission, it will not just rest there. It will come back to this body. Then the legislative branch will have the opportunity to then hear in a public hearing setting what it is that these citizens actually want to have in their community. So can someone point to that, please? And I hope that's not too tough of a question.
Mr. President.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yeah, I will respond to this one. So with the passage of UDC, it will continue to be the case that any rezoning request does originate at the Planning Commission, where the executive branch has appointed members to that Planning Commission, but they only make a recommendation to this city council that a rezoning should or shouldn't happen, whatever it would be. And ultimately, this city council has the authority to approve or not approve something. So the citizens will certainly have an opportunity to make their voices known by way of a public hearing, as we ordinarily do with rezonings. And there's protections in there for rezonings.
Thank you. And so in the time frame between now and when this will roll out, what is this body or the city going
Madam City Clerk, that's 3 minutes?
Not yet.
Oh, go, Mr. Oh, it's 5. Oh, go ahead.
Mr. President.
It's 5. 4. I'm sorry. We got to extend you another 15 seconds, Mr. Hill. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
There were 4 minutes.
No, it's 4 seconds. You have 4 seconds. He's giving you 15 seconds.
So it's my time.
He gave you 15 seconds.
I gave you 15 additional seconds, Mr. Hill. Thank
you. As we move forward this process, I know this morning it was discussed that potentially 6 months down the line, what is in place now for the community to say this, whatever the results are, to know what is happening in the decision making with this? Because we've seen plenty of complaints today that they feel that they're not engaged. So is there any process that's in store?
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Is anyone going to answer the question?
Thank you, Mr. Any council member?
Mr. President.
Mr.
I don't have a question. I'm just going to make
So
a
no one's
comment.
going to answer the question. Thank you.
And I'm just going to make a comment that to provide additional clarity. I was appointed to the Planning Commission as a representative of this body that sits on that commission. Everything that Planning Commission does, every city council representative has visibility and awareness of. Every citizen that is in the vicinity of any development has notification and has the ability to come down and address the Planning Commission in person, just like they do here. And they do it every other week when the Planning Commission is held. There have been times, numerous times since I've been appointed and have sat on the Planning Commission, where if there is an issue raised that is controversial, I will make a recommendation to delay that hearing so this city council has the ability to meet with their constituents about that specific development. And that has happened numerous times since I've been appointed. So you do have a voice. You do have access and representation to the Planning Commission and to this body for every development that is happening within this city. Thank you, Mr. President.
Do we have any other citizens that would like to address this council on this particular public hearing?
Good morning, everyone. Sabrina Mass, 1050 Belvedere Circle West. And I'm going to say this, if I may. I don't live in this area. This is about the UDC president. However, can I make a statement? I have no power over this city council or the citizens. I am so tired of living in this city, and yet every time I come, or most of the time I come, it's black against white. When are we going to become citizens to say we are a unified people? We got to be a unified people. Because when I sit in the audience, I see white versus black. I know some great people that spoke on the Caucasian side, Mr. Chappelle. I know some great people that work on the black side. I know lots of people in Mobile. Until we become a unified city and stop making it about the black issue, the white issue, but the right issue. We got to stop pointing fingers and being this and this and that. I don't think the council is up here to try to hurt anybody. I don't think they're doing this UDC to try to hurt a people. I think it's just a lot of misunderstanding. I can't make a decision today of how they're going to vote on this or they're going to lay it over. I feel the resolution maybe is to just bring the people in that community together to let them have a voice. Let someone hear them, be neutral, let them have a voice, let them decide what's good for their community, what they feel comfortable with, and then we can move forward as a city. Until we stop pointing fingers saying this is a black-white issue, we're not going to move anywhere. I'm speaking as a citizen of Mobile. It breaks my heart to see this going on. And you know what's so sad? The people that are speaking, even some of the council, are good people. Good people. Good people in the city. Good people on the council, good people on this side, good people on that side. And I'm not even a perfect citizen myself. Sometimes I have to even repent and apologize to some of the people that I say things to. But I am woman enough, I am a citizen of this city, enough to stand up and say, I apologize. We got to start loving each other. Stop trying to look for fault in each other. And I'm tired of it. Can we please try to start thinking in that manner? Can we please come together as a civilized community? Figure out our problems together. Thank you so much, and everyone have a good day.
Thank you. Does anyone else would like to address the council on this particular public hearing? Ms. Biko or Mr. Rossler, I'm not too sure who wants to address the council. We ask at this time if someone can come down and address the council. And let me ask this council a question. Would y'all like to take a recess before they address us, or let them go ahead and address us? We just take a break.
What?
Okay. Come on. We'll take a break out later on. Come on. Ms. Biko.
Yes, sir.
Some of the questions and concerns, especially from the Sandtown community, that they had asked. Could you address some of those questions and some questions that the council may have? Could you answer those questions, please?
I'll just try to make a few points. Relative to rezoning, the UDC nor the overlay attempts to rezone any properties.
Hold up. For the last 2 hours, I asked for respect. Please, audience, please respect the speaker. Please respect the other audience. They here to hear the person that's speaking. Please do not speak, and especially speak louder than the speaker that's actually speaking, please. I'm sorry, Ms. Pico.
Okay. Specific to the UDC, specific to the Village of Spring Hill overlay, there are no elements of either code or article that attempt to rezone properties within the Village of Spring Hill boundaries. Should an application be made from private development, it would go through the same process that you are familiar with in terms of routine zoning applications that are in front of the council each and every week. As was mentioned, the Planning Commission makes a recommendation of rezoning, but the final legislative ordinance change does take place through vote of the City Council. A new feature of the UDC, which would also apply to the Village of Spring Hill area, is should there be an application for rezoning, the developer would be required to have a neighborhood meeting where he would convene a public gathering where the residents would be able to come and ask questions of the developer to ensure that there's not any misinformation or misinterpretation of what that developer's intentions are. That information is then carried forward to the Planning Commission and also is made a matter of record when the convening takes place, public hearings associated with City Council action. With respect to the Village of Spring Hill geography, there is a plan, a wider plan. It mostly addresses infrastructure, park-related elements, but with respect to zoning, we're only talking about a very defined geography that does regulate commercial properties. As an example, if the Village of Spring Hill overlay does not move forward, that same zoning remains in place, and developers can act on that. These are just additional requirements above and beyond what is already allowed with respect to the current zoning. And they're more of the form-based requirements that go above and beyond what you're accustomed to with respect to rezoning. So I think the point that I'm wanting to make to you is that the Village of Spring is an overlay on top of commercial zoning. It does not attempt to rezone any additional properties.
Council. Ms. Gregory?
Yeah, Shayla, if you would, just go back over the timeline, how many meetings were held citywide, and then also specifically, for this overlay, the Village of Spring Hill overlay, questions that came up, answers that were provided, that sort of thing.
As you all know, we started this process back in 2017. We had community meetings all over the city. We convened in large groups and we convened in small groups. and mostly at the neighborhood or stakeholders' request. With respect to the Village of Spring Hill overlay, it was during the pandemic period, mostly when we were during the lockdown, but the planning and zoning team conducted Zoom meetings with the Village of the Sandtown leadership. I cannot speak to any community convenings that took place prior to the UDC that may have been specific to the Village of Spring Hill plan. I'm specifically focusing on the meetings that were relative to the UDC.
To the overlay.
Correct.
During our pre-conference, you went through some of the specifics in the timeline of putting the UDC together. You mentioned that this is mostly form-based, aesthetic, because I think that's one of the misconceptions is that this overlay has something to do with zoning or commercial encroachment, that kind of thing. Can you describe exactly what the overlay is, what it does, and what the impact is or is not?
The overlay relies on zoning, but the standards or requirements that are in addition to what you currently experience in any other development throughout the city deal with site orientation, site development, parking ratios, pedestrian accessibility, buffering, things of that nature, additional aesthetic requirements to the building itself.
But the overlay, does it encourage development? Is that what it's about?
Well, I would specifically say that, first of all, know that this is not the only overlay. We have an overlay for the Africatown community as well as an overlay for the peninsula. And they are additional standards or additional requirements that address what I would define as traditional neighborhood development standards. And that is a trend that you're seeing throughout the community. Many of the more progressive communities are incorporating what we refer to as traditional development design guidelines. Probably what you're most familiar with within our city right now is the downtown requirements. That has nothing to do with use. It has to do with how architectural features, architectural designs, site development designs for the site, for the building.
And that's what this Village of Spring Hill overlay is. Aesthetics, that sort of thing.
It is encouraging, yes.
One of the things that you brought up, and I know we've heard about it as well, is the interest, rightly so, in making sure that the Sandtown community is recognized for its historic significance. And I know you and some others on the mayor's staff have had some conversations about that. What, in your estimation, should we be doing to encourage this, to maybe carry the ball if need be, to get some of these things done?
So some of the initial engagement with the Sandtown community, there were a variety of topics that they brought to our attention, but one had to do with what I would call more heritage historic preservation tools. And so as a part of our efforts, the city regularly facilitates discussions with neighborhood groups that are interested in historic preservation as a tool. Now, what you have to keep in mind is there's multiple ways to implement that. And that is a community-led process where the city would stand in support of the community's efforts to apply for historic designation, say through the Alabama State Historic Commission. And we have historic preservation professionals on staff, some of which the community has had some initial conversations with that could certainly be facilitated through our process of long-range planning for the neighborhood.
I know we've heard from some of the residents who said they were fearful maybe that their neighborhoods are being taken over, that kind of thing, and they have a lot of anxiety about it. Could a historic preservation enacting something like that, or possibly a safe zone similar to what Africatown has gone through, would that be something that we could come back and look at? Has nothing to do with the Village of Spring Hill overlay, but it does have something to do with what is done in their community. Could that be something that we could come back and look at and help encourage and do the research and work with residents to make something happen for them?
Certainly, and I would say that it's a comprehensive process. So It is working hand in glove with the community. Rather than me come up with a set of prescribed steps that I think would be most beneficial to the neighborhood, my goal would be to understand the neighborhood's priorities. It could be that a local historic district may not be the best fit for a community because the standards are very restrictive. They're costly in some instances, depending on the types of tools that you implement. But you've got conservation districts, heritage preservation districts. The historic preservation toolbox has gotten a lot wider. And I think there's definitely an opportunity for us. And we actually have been structured through a grant that we received a couple of years ago to bring these tools together. We call it the Neighborhood Toolkit. I think Councilman Penn is probably most familiar with how that process early on works. And it's really listening and learning from the community. But it's a combined effort with the residents and citizens and stakeholders within the community.
Well, I think something like that would certainly be of interest and something that we need to consider, and working with you, working with the residents to see exactly what it is they do want would be important for us as we go forward, and something that I would like to see this council embrace as well.
Any other council members?
I'm all for a break. I want to make sure that I heard that right. You said need to embrace or would like to embrace. Are you stating that you are going to move forward with establishing a safe zone in Sandtown?
What I said is that
that was directed at Gina.
Oh, no. I said that I would like for us to move forward to looking at that, yes, once we pass the UDC, then we can move forward to work with the staff and with the residents to establish whether it's a historic area, a safe zone, a combination thereof, what the residents feel most comfortable with and what they would prefer. And it's something that I would hope that this council would embrace as well.
The next question would be that if it was done after the UDC passes, would it be protected within the UDC? I know we did the safe zone for Africatown beforehand so that I could make sure that it was inside the UDC before it passing. Is this something that could be done after it passing and make sure that the neighborhood is protected in the same manner that Africatown is?
Are you asking me?
Yes, I'm asking.
Would initiate a process to address a plethora of land planning issues that the community brought to the table.
Oh, the reason why I'm asking, because it may require.
Hold on, Mr. Carroll.
Go ahead.
I'm going to ask this audience, I'm not telling them, I'm asking, please respect the speaker and the council and the rest of the audience. People are talking out in the audience, and you disrupting not only the meeting, you disrupting the speakers. Please respect us. Please respect the fellow citizens that listen online. Please respect the citizens that's listening in here. If you need to speak or talk, please step outside. Okay, not being rude, I'm asking. It's all about respect. I do apologize, Mr. Carroll.
I'm fine. The only way to get this into the UDC, I'm thinking would be by amendment to the UDC, correct, for the safe zone?
I'm anticipating amendments.
All right, so that if it was an amendment to create the safe zone for Ms. Gregory, would they have to wait for 6 months?
Well, it is in my opinion, 6 months is a very restrictive amount of time to be able to exercise what we would want as far as a plan for the community. The Africatown, if I use the Africatown example, that was a 15-month process from community engagement to development of the plan.
Well, I was just
that was going through the motion of getting it adopted.
I was just talking about the safe zone, is what I was talking about. It took us, 2 weeks to get the one established for Africatown within the UDC. But I guess what I'm asking is that if there can't be an amendment to the UDC for 6 months or until the subdivision can be completed, or can that happen before the 6 months up? That may be a legal question. I don't know.
It can be. Substitute Mr. Arledge agreeing. You passed the ordinance today. It is on the books. It doesn't become effective for 6 months down the road, but it is an ordinance that is on the books and then could be We'd have to follow the procedure for zoning amendments, public hearing before the planning commission, recommendation, come back to the council, public hearing, etc. But that can be done.
And that's what I was thinking. If we were to do it now, we wouldn't have to go before the planning commission and everywhere else the same way we did the Africatown safe zone, and it could be done a little quicker and gotten into the structure of the ordinance now. If we come back, that's quite a bit of time and effort that it's going to take to get it all done, and that's what I'm alluding to. How much time would it actually take just to get a safe zone in place for Sandtown if that's what Ms. Gregory is interested in?
Unfortunately, not as simple as you propose.
Yeah.
Because what the council adopts today, hopefully as the UDC, has to be what was advertised. So I believe what you're proposing would be making some sort of overlay plan to apply to Sandtown would require going back to square one and re-advertise.
So she has to wait anyway in order to get it done now, so we have to go through the process anyway right now is what you're saying. That's fine. I'm just asking. I stated in pre-council that the numerous calls this weekend, I know it's not my district, Gina, but there's family out there, and I just couldn't sit here and say nothing and have family members call me in and just say, Gina's handling it. So I had to ask the questions. So it can be done. I hear that Ms. Gregory is interested in getting it done. The other thing I understand is going to take some time because you're dealing with the National Park Association, with the Historic District. That takes a lot of time and documentation. But the safe zone is something that we can, that Ms. Gregory could work on as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. Penn.
I agree with Mr. Carroll. I receive a bunch of phone calls, and just hearing the historic perspective, I know it's important to provide Sandtown with a safe zone. So my question is, how long would that process take? If we were to pass it today, how long would that process take to amend and get a safe zone?
So we're talking about going back through the advertising steps and getting a plan in place. I mean, at a minimum, your advertising requirement, if you recall from the point at which you agreed to move forward with this, it's that the advertising alone, state prescribed process is 30 days.
Okay.
So you've got to add at least, I would say, another 30 days to that. Because we have to bring it to you in its most final form, and then you have to advertise it, and then a public hearing is set. And the planning commission is the first step.
Okay. So it's a chance that we could get a safe zone in maybe the next 3 months? Is it up?
Based on the advertising requirements, it would be feasible. But then there's getting into the nuances of what a safe zone would include.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. Reynolds.
I wanted to just provide some clarity to, I think, what Mr. Rossler said. I believe he said that we can pass the UDC today, and that becomes law effectively. Well, it becomes the new ordinance. It does not go into effect until a minimum of 6 months later, which means that if we pass the ordinance today, then the ordinance can be amended by way of any amendment that is offered up by any member of this council. So if we pass it, somebody has an amendment they'd like to offer to create a safe zone or whatever, that can be done without having to start back over and re-advertise. Am I understanding that correctly? That was probably a very poor way of explaining it. But.
An amendment could be proposed, but it has to go back through the planning commission first and then to the council.
No, I'm saying the UDC, let's just assume that it is passed today. Okay, and then say next week, Mr. Carroll has an amendment he'd like to offer. Are you saying that if it's amended prior to it being effective, that we have to go through this whole process again, back through the planning commission and so on and so forth?
Any text amendment to a zoning ordinance, like the UDC UDC has to go to the planning commission first.
Even if the UDC is already passed?
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Mr. Days, then Mr. Carroll.
Okay, Mr. Rossler, I think it's important that everybody be clear on this. If we pass the UDC today, it becomes law. It doesn't go into effect for 6 months or so, but it becomes law. Now, at that point, it could be amended. It could be amended just like any other, excuse me, just like any other zoning ordinance. If we were to amend the existing zoning ordinance, I'm not talking about the UDC. If someone had wanted at some point in the past to amend the existing zoning ordinance, they would have had to, it'd still have to go back and start the planning commission, right?
Correct.
So once the UDC is enacted, just like it becomes law, but it can be amended, but any amendment has to start with the planning commission. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Now,
With one caveat or explanation. The council could make a recommendation for a text amendment and send it to the planning commission to start that process. I think that's what Mr. Carroll's suggesting, that we and the council work on a proposed text amendment, get it in writing and approved.
after we've passed the UDC
Yes,
today.
and then send it to the planning commission, which would start that process.
Does that facilitate the process?
In my opinion, it does, absolutely.
Okay.
Mr. Carroll.
I just wanted.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Day. I'm sorry, Mr. Day. I'm sorry, Mr. Day.
Ms. Biko. I know we've been over this ground a number of times in the past. But what we've heard from a lot today is a concern about potential commercial encroachment on the Sandtown community. The passage...
Closer to the mic, Mr. Day.
What we've heard today is concerns about potential commercial encroachment on the Sandtown community. If the UDC passes today with the mandatory overlay, no property is going to be rezoned by that. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
If any property, if the UDC is passed today with a mandatory overlay, in the future, if anyone seeks to rezone property, they're going to have to go through this same process we've talked about. It's going to have to start at the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission considers it, makes a recommendation to the City Council, and then the City Council acts after appropriate public hearings. In addition, I understood you to say, what's different in this current UDC from the existing zoning ordinance is that in such a case, the person seeking the zoning change would have to have a neighborhood meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Which is not the case right now.
Correct.
And I also understood you to say that the UDC, that the Village of Spring Hill overlay has requirements for development that are tighter, more restrictive than the requirements for development in the rest of the code. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank
you. Mr. Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was just listening to Councilman Joel talk about form-based code and all that good stuff. I just wanted to be clear about this. It was mentioned that Councilman Carroll issued an amendment for something that's in District 7. I want to be clear that there's a council person in District 7 by the name of Tina Gregory. I would not do that. If she asks for help on wording or something like that, I'll be glad to give an input, but I'm pretty sure that Ms. Gregory is going to, after hearing her statement, issue the amendment to establish a safe zone after talking about the parameters out there. But quickly to the members of Sandtown and you guys, you You have to be clear and concise and definitive on the boundaries of whatever it is that you're going to do. You have to own the properties that are within the safe zone if there's going to be properties protected by the safe zone. If there are properties that have already been sold that are outside the parameters, there's probably nothing you can do about that. So you have to be aware of that. And I'm talking about the property where the old log cabin wood church stood that was St. Ignatius before St. Ignatius on the corner of McGregor and Spring Hill Avenue. That's no longer there anymore. You don't own that anymore. All right, I'm talking about the property up the street from that was lost because of tax sales from where heirs moved out and never came back. That's no longer owned or within the Sandtown because people moved out. The fear that the older people have out there is that they've lived there for so long, but like my family, where there were 14 of them, 12 boys and 2 girls, they all moved away and only left 1 or 2 of us here, and kind of left family properties out there where there were so many heirs that none of the heirs could be found or all can agree on something, and it's set for years and then was sold for taxes. And that property leaving a community that had been part of it for 100 years. That's the fear of people with financial resources able to come in and just swoop something up for taxes and take it away from a community that's been there for a while. Those kinds of thoughts need to be considered, especially when a community's been there since before 1850, and they've been there forever with their resources and built cemeteries and homes and churches. Some of you or some of us have only been there recently. Some of us lived in Yestrokes before we ever started the village of Spring Hill or even those areas like that, and came later. Even my Uncle Marion came later. He didn't go until the 1970s, but family had been there forever. I still have friends that are there now, that are there now, even Ann Edwards. For years, the village of Spring Hill has existed. I was here when you guys formed it. It was a great idea. Form-based is one of my favorite types of architecture because of the way that it makes the city look and feel and walkable. But still yet, you have to consider the people that live behind the form base. Lots of times the parking's in the rear of form base, and even with the best buffering and blinds, you still can see properties next to what they don't want to see. I think that Ms. Gregory has a great start going right here in helping to form a safe zone within Sandtown, and she's doing, hopefully going to do a great job for it. And hopefully that since you've heard her say that and know that it's coming, that you guys can allow us to pass this today and know that you guys are going to have your safe zone in place and you're going to feel safe and you will be protected. Mr. President, that's all I have to say about that.
Mr. President.
Mr. Jones.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions to the Planning Commission. Do we know of any current or near future planning development in the Sandtown area right now? That's been presented to the Planning Commission?
Just confirm with Margaret. To my knowledge, we have no knowledge of any pending applications.
One of the things that I would recommend to this body is, while we work on the path towards this safe zone, if we can identify the boundaries to in a good faith effort to the people of Sandtown, I would not be amenable to looking at a moratorium on any commercial development in that area while we work through this process that would give them additional safeguards while we work through this. Just something that I would put on the table.
And other council members? All right. All right. We laugh. This particular public hearing is closed. Ms. go ahead with the public hearing, then we'll do a recess after.
Public hearing, today is a public hearing to declare the structures at 1109 Adams Street, 1110 Adams Street, 255 Clay Street, 209 Lexington Avenue, 1700 B Michigan Avenue, 1101 South Broad Street, and 2017 Marion Drive public nuisances and ordering them demolished.
Is anyone present in the audience that would like to address the council on NLD said properties? Just open up the public hearing. You may do so by coming down to the podium by stating us your name and your address. Is anyone present? If not, these particular public hearings is closed. Ladies and gentlemen, this council, and I think we've been in this auditorium for 2 hours and 20 minutes. We're going to at least take how many minutes y'all want to just take? 10 minutes? Okay. Let's just take a 10-minute break. Should be back at 1 o'clock. It's already 12:53. Be back by 1:05. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start in 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Lana, could you?
Yeah, soon as Councilman Carroll and Ms. Gregg can get up here. Yeah. Madam Clerk, you ready? Okay.
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Michael Pierce.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Pierce. Thank you for waiting patiently.
Yes, sir. I learned a lot from that hearing. Good afternoon, City Council members. I'm Michael Pierce, 105 Fielding Place, Mobile, Alabama, 36608. I'm here as the CEO of the Mobile Housing Authority. Wanted to just come and give you all an update on all things mobile housing because we have been relatively quiet since my arrival almost 3 years ago. And frankly, I'll be honest with you, that's on purpose. When I showed up at the Housing Authority along with the board that the mayor appointed, the patient literally was on life support. The Housing Authority is still currently under 2 regulatory agreements. And those regulatory agreements essentially mean if we don't comply with those, the HUD will come in and take over the agency from not just the board, but from the city, and they'll run it. Typically, if they take it over, it's going to be about 10 years before you'll ever get it back because they're going to come in and establish the things that they want to. Fortunately, and I'm happy to report to you today that while we are not where we need to be, we're about 70% complete with the recovery agreement that HUD has placed on us. We're out of compliance with one item that is actually outside of our control. You guys have kind of heard over the last couple of years that there is a challenge as relates to the Housing Authority's exit from the Personnel Board. Well, that's not something that we can control. Our local legislative delegation has to take care of that. We've been working with them to try to get to that place where that can take place. The rationale behind that, I presume from HUD, is this, that we are a single-funded agency, all federal dollars, no city or county money. And they see that, and they recognize that our participation in the system has been a serious impediment. Didn't just start when I showed up. This has been going on for quite some time. But that's the one item to date that we're not in compliance with. I will tell you that we're also moving away from what you know as traditional public housing. Public housing of yesteryear is public housing where the Housing Authority owns all of these resources, these assets, public housing buildings, structures, we manage it, we own it, and we lease it, and our clients move in. The new model is a voucher-centric model where public housing authorities aren't owning the developments, but rather the private sector is owning them. We're providing vouchers to those private owners to help house our clients. The reality is we presently right now have an RFP out for 300 vouchers. Those 300 vouchers collectively, when you look at a blend of 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom units, account for $5 million in housing resources investment in our community to landlords. So when you look at that, and these are 20-year contracts, when you enter into these agreements with HUD, that's over $100 million investment that will happen with just those 300 vouchers in the community. The city of Mobile, I know, has a robust plan to move forward with affordable housing because that's really important.
Mr. Pierce, I hate to stop you.
Yes,
Council,
sir.
can I extend to him one more minute?
No objection.
Okay.
Yeah.
One more minute. That was it. Yeah. One more minute.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Being that he is the CEO of the Housing Authority, I would extend the time until his report is complete at the same level we would the Mobile County Public Health Department or any other departments when an executive director is addressing the council.
In objection, council?
Yeah. I will.
Yeah.
I can assure you, I will not. I'll take a long time. I appreciate that, Councilman Carroll. But essentially, that's $100 million worth of investment over time, over that 20-year time span. I know the city of Mobile and the mayor has a really aggressive 1,000 homes east of 65 by 2026. And so we recently reached out to him and said, we want to be able to do something to help you in District 2 to be able to move that initiative further along. How do we invest in that? We invest in that with these vouchers that we have. Developers are able to monetize those vouchers as part of their financing plan. If it is not in a low-income, high-poverty district, that's the one caveat. So some of this development, as it relates to our participation as providing these vouchers, HUD and FHEO, FHEO is a federal agency that deals with housing discrimination, making certain that units are ADA accessible, et cetera. There's this thing called Site Neighborhood Standard that we are confronted with. We can't get around it. We've had some conversations about sites in these high-density, high-poverty areas that just simply won't pass, won't qualify. And so some people are asking the questions, well, why not this? And the reason for that is because of this transition, and it's called asset repositioning. We can have a long discussion about that, but not today. The reality is we're about 80% complete on the 504 work. That is the ADA accessibility, sight and mobility impaired units, and that's on the VCA. I said two agreements, regulatory agreements. Recovery agreement deals with mostly just public housing. VCA deals with housing discrimination. And so we are 80% done there. We're working in concert with city engineering as it relates to right-of-way issues at our properties so that people that have any challenges, mobility challenges, or what have you, can quickly and easily access those properties without hazard. The last thing I want to say is this. We are primed and ready to be a partner with the city to help solve the housing crisis. It's not a Mobile issue. Everyone knows that. This is national. And so, but we want to participate and work alongside you all because the reality is none of us can do this on our own. The Housing Authority didn't get in the condition that it's in overnight. It took some time. But here's what I can say to you. For me to say to you that there are no issues and no challenges would be disingenuous. So I'm not going to do that. What I will tell you is that when I mentioned that the agency was on life support and was that close to being taken over by HUD, that's a fact. But the reality is we've been able to turn the corner. And I say we, I literally mean we. There's no I in team from our board of directors under Chairman Hill's leadership to our employees who now have a different attitude and viewpoint on what it is that we do and why we do it, because we are all working for the betterment of our clients. I want us to have fewer discussions about us individually and more conversations about our clients and how do we help them improve and become who they need to be and reach their potential within our community. We're going to be, note I didn't say maybe, might, we are going to be a model for housing authorities across the country. That's not my words. That's what we've heard from HUD. It's likewise what we've heard from consultants. And so the last thing I'll say is this. Together we all can make a difference. But in the end, it has to be about the people that we serve. You all are elected officials, and I would never want your job. Never. You got a lot of pressure on you. You have a lot of expectations. And we need good men and women within our communities to fill those roles. I don't believe that's my calling in life. I believe my calling is to do something different, but to complement what it is that you all do. So I just want to make certain that you all know that we're going to work as hard as we possibly can within the rules to ensure that the agency can move forward, provide safe, decent, affordable housing to our clients, and also, most importantly, create opportunities for the individuals who reside within public housing to take advantage of the assets and all of the jobs and opportunities that are coming to our community. If we can do that, then, ladies and gentlemen, I think we will have done our job. And that will conclude my remarks, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I hate so bad. I really do hate so bad that this meeting went so long that it's not being recorded now. I think we've reached beyond our time. I think, what, 2 hours or 2.5 hours? I'm talking about for people who go back and watch it later. Yeah. But, and probably some people had probably tuned out because so many people have questions about the housing board.
Yes.
Even Miss Mass, you know, she came down a couple weeks ago and asked about Barking Towers, why, you know, we had to put $1 million into like the Gayford's building, but we can't take the $1 million and put it into, you know, Barking Towers. You know, so many questions is out there. What's the future of, you know, like RV and Birdsville? You hear one minute that we're going to renovate those properties, and the next minute you hear about can't renovate them, and you hear about, you know, you're going to sell some of the property, and the next minute you hear about we're not going to sell. It's just so much out there, and then the stories just get turned and over and over and over and over again.
Right.
I'm going to ask, and I know time is prevailing. I know several of my colleagues, but I'm going to reach out to you in the next couple of weeks and have a district meeting, a community meeting, really, especially in the Maysville, Oakdale community, real soon, before the fall of the year, and try to see if we can set up a meeting for some of the citizens in the area to come out, you know, ask some questions, because again, so many questions out there in the community, and again, I know that the Mobile Housing Board was under, you know, great life support, and you have helped to revitalize, you know, the housing board over there. You know, I have some, you know, people, friends that work for us throughout, and they would tell me that Mobile was being really, was in a bad predicament. And I do appreciate your leadership and everything. I'm looking forward to talking to you,
Certainly.
you know, real soon, especially set up a community meeting. I think, Mr. Daves, I think you were about to ready to say something.
Yeah. I can be very brief. Thank you, Mr. Pierce, for being with us today. I appreciate the job you're doing. You did inherit a mess, and you and I have a symbiotic relationship. You don't want my job. I don't want your job.
I would agree.
One point of clarification, what I thought I heard you say was that HUD would like the employees of the housing board to be moved out from under the personnel board, Mobile County Personnel Board. Is that correct?
That's correct. The recovery agreement calls for the city of Mobile and the housing authority to work in concert to remove the requirement of our participation in the Mobile County Personnel Board merit system.
Yeah, but you're right, that's going to take legislative action.
Exactly. So that is beyond our control. We're working with them. A couple of sessions have come and gone, hadn't happened. And so all we can do is do what we can do, continue to do the work, and then hopefully at some point that'll get resolved.
And this last piece is just a request. If there's any way you can exercise more control over your landlords, your Section 8 landlords, in how they care for the properties that they have leased out, that would be a great benefit.
Yes. We're actually having a landlord forum the 20th of this month. I believe that's next Friday.
Because when I was going door to door in 13, and then the last time, I've just you go into these neighborhoods that at one time were nice, middle class neighborhoods, and a lot of these Section 8 houses just stick out like sore thumbs.
Okay.
Thank you,
Mr. President.
Mr. Jones?
Yeah, I actually was going to make that same comment, and I say the same thing in my district. You know, you see some of these homes that you know they're getting paid well from the federal government, and I wouldn't want my dog to live in there. I mean, I walked in a home, part of the floor is missing. There's roof leaks. The carpet's musty. And yet the federal government's still paying them rent for the people living in there. Where's the oversight? Where's the accountability for the landowner? Because it does have an impact on the rest of the community. If that landowner is not going to maintain that home, then neighbors don't want to live near that. They're going to move out. Then you're going to have that continue to grow. And it just leads to a negative decline in the community. So we've got to find a way to fix that. And I think the same way with the normal renters as well. We've got to fix this problem. So anything I can do to help with that, I'd be happy to. But I think that's a state and federal issue. We've got to get some teeth to hold these folks accountable.
The only thing I'll add to that is, so most of the properties that we have under contract via what's called a HAP agreement. So there are two agreements. There's a lease agreement that the tenant themselves have with the private landowner, and then the agency has a contract with the property owner. And so the payments to that property owner are bifurcated. One comes from us, and then one comes from up to 30% of the adjusted gross income of the client. As it relates to disrepair, those types of things. Generally, properties are on a biannual cycle for inspections. And so when those inspections take place, if they don't pass, so I'd love to see the ones that you said don't have floors, because we can handle that real quickly. But those that don't, they are abated. By that, we means they receive a notice, a violation, and a period of time to cure. If it isn't done within that time frame, then they don't receive rent. And so we get calls all the time about those things. And then if they still don't get it taken care of, then we look to move that resident, that voucher holder, from that particular property to another property. But that's not to say that there aren't challenges out there. The fact of the matter is there's a severe shortage of affordable housing in our community. And so there isn't a whole lot of places they can go to. I can tell you, we caught hell trying to find enough housing as relates to relocation because of Thomas James and R.V. Taylor, just trying to prove to HUD that we had sufficient housing to be able to relocate people in the event they didn't want to stay on a property that we currently own. But I hear you, and that's certainly something that we want to take care of, because it's vitally important that our clients know that they're not invisible, and we're not going to marginalize them. We're going to hold everybody accountable, both them as well as the landlord. So I appreciate you sharing that with me, and we'll continue to work on that. If y'all see something, let us say something to me, because it's important that I hear from you guys as well.
Yeah, I think one of the council members just reached out to me and just asked, about having a committee meeting. So probably you'll be hearing from us real soon, just having a committee meeting. I think it's several other questions, especially you asking help from the city. And even Mr. Jones just say, let us know, let him know how he could help, So I think the rest of the council would like to know the same thing. Anything else from this council? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Francis Carson.
Ms. Carson available?
Terrence Spivey.
Good afternoon, council members.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for waiting so patiently.
Yeah, thank you. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm a theater artist in residence here on behalf of Greg Cyprian and Imani Theater Company, which is going to be the very first black theater company in the city. I first met Greg at Caramel House. I was the artistic director there a couple of years back. It's the oldest black theater in the country. He had seen my production of God's Trombones, a gospel musical, and Greg expressed his deep desire to bring black theaters to Mobile, Alabama, for the community, to also provide more arts education on his Legacy 166 within underserved neighborhoods like the one I grew up in Houston, Texas. Because of Greg, I have become part of Clotilda's Descendants Association as a family member. CDA President Darren Patterson and Vice President Jocelyn Davis commissioned me to write and direct An Ocean in My Bones last February. I'm here in the city now conducting a 4-week workshop, acting workshop in Africatown to prepare for the talented artist for future productions. An Ocean in My Bones has brought an awareness about the Clotilda survivors in different lenses. It has been a showcase for the talent. Kennedy Lewis, the youngest actress in the play, was scouted by Nickelodeon a couple of months ago. The play has also brought collaborations between CDA and Imani Theater Company. Now, with your support, an Afrocentric theater such as Imani Theater Company and historical drama such as An Ocean in My Bones, it can also help to contribute to the cultural landscape in Mobile, attract national and international visitors, inspire landscape,
in the jobs for local artists, be an economic boost and a solid return in investment. It also helped establish Mobile as a center of arts and culture in the Southeast. I would also like to bring aboard here, pardon the pun, but
I don't have any time. My name is Darren Patterson. I'm the president of the Clotilda Descendants Association. I hope when I leave here, I'm still a senior technical writer at Airbus. So we will find out. But thank you very much for your support. Mr. Spivey is here to make sure that we bring the story of the Descendants to the big screen and to the stage play that we're going to take all the way to Broadway. So with your support, we appreciate everything that Councilman Carroll's doing in Africatown. We would like for you as a body to get behind what we're doing, and make sure that we can succeed. Thank you very much.
Let me ask you a couple questions. Thank you all so much for coming down to council. Have you all reached out to the school system like LaFleur Performance Arts? And
we are going to the school system. We're going to make sure that we're in all the schools coming up. Imani Community Theater has already reached out. We're also going to the HBCUs. We're going to take this thing on the road. We're going to have more than one company possibly, but the framework is in place for what Mr. Spivey is doing with Ocean in My Bones to make sure that it is it's going to be something that's really good to see. If you didn't see it last February, we have another one coming up in February, and then the full stage play is going to debut in Mobile in 2024, and that's when we're going to have company coming from all over the world.
And I do agree with you that, you know, the talent here in Mobile and exercising the people, and we just need, besides the Mobile County Public Schools, like the Florida Performing Arts, we need other agencies like the HBCUs. I mean, close to that we have an HBCU is Bishop State, but we need, you know, some leadership. We have something on the agenda later on today, you know, asking for, you know, proper leadership over there, and actually get people involved over there where they can have theater over there, because they have a nice theater over there, and I think they used to have it back in the day, but having programs over there like that. But I appreciate your leadership so much and everything. Thank you. Anything else from this council?
Thank you.
Okay, thank y'all.
Darlene Martin.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Darlene Martin, and I live at 2411 Cross Street in the Africatown community. I'm here today to follow up on my Lead One, Teach One program. I pray all of you had an opportunity to look over the information I provided to you. I have met with the children 3 times now. The most recent was on yesterday. We have 3 additional meetings scheduled for Monday, July 18th, the 24th, and August the 1st. I know it's late in the year and many of your discretionary purses are empty. If yours is depleted, please offer me a platform to get this on the mainstream to allow me to move forward. I am unknown to the average business owner. If you think this is a worthwhile program, please support me by forwarding this information that I was given, you guys got last week, to organizations that you are involved in, the local businesses you deal with, other agencies that respect you, and ask them to donate. Then, when you get your new allocation, please keep me in mind for 2023. All I know is the time to act is now. I have been purchasing supplies and feeding the participants with the limited resources I have. Anything that you do will be greatly appreciated. Thank you for your time. And I was also featured on Channel 5, if you guys saw me on Friday. And I think she forwarded that information to you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill McConnell.
Mr. McConnell available.
Reggie Hill.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Before I begin, this is the first time that the two of us has been in the building since the announcement, and I just want to take this time to publicly congratulate Ms. Lana Gaucher on being appointed as Assistant City Clerk. She's already began making her stamp in this new position, and I know there'll just be a continuation of the exemplary professionalism that we see from the ninth floor on that side of the South Tower. Citizens and stakeholders of Mobile, again, greetings. Reggie Hill, 1007 Center Street. I rise today to request for a formal investigation to consider abuse of power by the city of Mobile. I want to begin with a statement. Loyalty to the dominant group does not mean law-abiding. I'll say that again. Loyalty to the dominant group does not mean law-abiding. Because of the time restraints, I want to emphasize on three specific components of how I believe there has been an abuse of power within the city of Mobile. I'd like to begin with resources. I'd like to begin with the use of the ARP funding. I'd like to begin with how we are preparing to accept a new budget for the upcoming year. And it seems as if there will not be many changes within how we allocate resources, whether that be through performance contracts, specific developments, and what we saw even today with 08598, which you'll potentially spend $550,000 on some SUVs. I asked a question weeks and weeks and weeks ago, months and months and months ago, years as well. Where is the inventory list? Why are we continuously spending resources in places and we have no accountability for it? There's a quiet before the storm here. I don't have time to speak on the public safety piece. I'll just have to come back. But it's very interesting. Mr. Jones said some things a while back pertaining to elections, and which led to a discussion with redistricting. And he said the positioning of people up here are based on character and reputation. All of these things. While there are some of us who have executive sessions in place for us that prevent us from having opportunities to get contracts, prevent us from having opportunities to have our information shared throughout the city, prevent us from having opportunities to utilize our tax-based resources to actually improve the quality of life here in the city of Mobile. As people sit up here weekly as if things are not going on and have the audacity to utilize these things, coming for people personally when it's the business of the city. So I can't come the way that I want to because of the time restraint. But this is only the beginning of that conversation. Treat everyone the way that we should be treated, or it's going to get a lot worse here in the city of Mobile. We will be back to continue this. Thank you for you on the floor. Thank you.
Ordinance is held over. 64017, ordinance to adopt the City of Mobile Unified Development Code.
So moved.
Second.
The proper move in second. In the discussion.
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
Ms. Gregory. Close to the mic.
We'll try to keep this brief. I want to start out by thanking Shayla Biko and all of your team, Shayla, for your persistence, your patience, your positive attitude throughout this entire process. I know it was anything but easy. Thank you to Jim Rossler for your legal expertise in getting us to this point. And also thank you to Mayor Stimson for following through on a promise that he made to overhaul our 1950s era zoning ordinances. You know, it's taken years and countless meetings with stakeholders. There have been changes and more changes and more changes ahead. And there was, of course, one failed attempt to get the UDC passed under the former council. But after listening to everything today, it sounds like we are finally ready to pass this Unified Development Code. Over the years, you know, we've all traveled to other cities that are beautifully landscaped. They have consistent commercial development that's complementary to the neighborhoods. And we've all asked, why can't we have this in Mobile? Why can't commercial and neighborhood areas look like this, where it's inviting to live, to work, to play and to visit, where people want to open and own businesses? Well, the answer is we can have it. It just takes the willingness to do it. And that's what the UDC, along with the overlays, including the Village of Spring Hill, the DIP area, and Africatown, will provide. Not only does the UDC update and modernize our zoning codes, it also supports and makes mandatory these plans adopted by the 3 communities that I just named off. It creates safer, sustainable neighborhoods and consistent commercial development in these neighborhoods. The Village of Spring Hill overlay that we've heard so much about lifts everyone. I've been working on the Village of Spring Hill overlay since, I don't know, at least 2008, when the ideas first came up, and there were charrettes and meetings, and the ideas came, plans were put together, and eventually it was passed as an optional plan. The plan is about aesthetics. We've heard that. It's about setbacks. It's about buffering and smaller parking lots and buffered parking lots. It is not developer-driven. For those of you who have been around as long as I have, you remember that when this all began, developers were vehemently opposed to it. This Village of Spring Hill overlay is strictly about how developers develop commercial properties. It does not encourage, nor does it allow commercial encroachment in areas zoned for single-family homes. The city zoning process with the Planning Commission and then those recommendations will still come to the council. That remains in place. What it does do is it holds all developers to the same standards. We've heard a lot and we've talked a lot today already about preserving the historic significance of the Sandtown community, and we've all agreed that we need to do more for that. It should be recognized and the history preserved. City staff has already been meeting with residents about this, whether it's designating the area as a historic site or a safe zone or some combination thereof. I will work with the staff and the residents in particular and property owners, because they too are involved in this, to go from there, to see where we are, to see where we need to go. Any designations, whether it's historic or a safe zone, however, do not change the Village of Spring Hill overlay. They are separate. But it could help provide the protections that some of the residents we've heard from are concerned about, and that's what we'll be working toward. You know, change is never easy. Getting stakeholders on different sides of zoning or planning proposals to agree or at least come to some sort of a compromise is almost impossible. Whoever would have thought that we'd have the realtors and neighborhood groups and so many others come to the table and agree. But that's what makes this very long process remarkable, I think, in a way, because we, and I count the council in this as a we, but it's the administration. It's Shayla, it's Jim, it's all of the team, the entire team. It's all of us who came together to keep working on it to make it come to this point. And I'm really hoping that we can pass this today on a unanimous vote so that we can work toward positive progress for all neighborhoods in our city.
And other council members? Mr. Days.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also would like to thank Ms. Biko and Mr. Rossler and anyone else in the administration. Well, I'm sure there are tons of people in the administration that have worked on this, but your patience has been amazing. Pulling this through the hundreds of meetings and thousands of suggestions and responses. And it was the legislation that's before us was today correctly described as a delicate balance. There were many, many competing interests, and this resulting legislation has been calculated to try to make as many people as possible not happy, but satisfied enough to be able to live with it. Because on this legislation, as on anything this important, no one gets everything they want. everyone gets some things they want and some things they don't want. There are pieces of this legislation, excuse me, there are pieces of this legislation which I don't like. But I think overall, it's very good. And it's a great start to leading us down the road to make this a different city. It's not going to be perfect. We can come back later on and adjust it if we need to. But today is the day we need to pass it because it's a great start. Thank you, Mr. President.
And other council members?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Mr. Jones?
Yeah, I would echo the same sentiment we've heard from Gene and Joel, Ms. Biko and Margaret and the whole Planning Commission staff. Years of putting this together, going through 2 city councils at least, and having to continue to change and morph and update. Councilman Carroll working with the Africatown piece and getting that to where there was a compromise. This entire document was a compromise, as you've heard, and that's so important on both sides. This UDC is so much bigger than Spring Hill and Sandtown and Africatown. This UDC is for the city of Mobile collectively. It's for my district and Ben's district and CJ's district, and there's issues. And, you know, with the help of the Planning Commission, with the help of this body, hopefully we can help resolve issues. And this definitely is not a perfect document. We've heard that numerous times. But this is not a final document. This is a living, breathing document that will continue to change and adapt as this city adapts. We've heard so many people talk about the history of, you know, where we started in the 1800s. We're not the 1800s anymore. You look where we are and where we're going, cities develop, cities change, cities move, technology changes, homes change. Neighborhoods change. UDCs also have to change. And this is hopefully a change to help keep us current with where we need to be. You know, I heard a statement today that everybody hasn't been heard in this process, and I don't believe that. If they haven't been heard, it's because they haven't taken the opportunity to be heard, because the opportunities have been there. There's been multiple hearings. This has been on the agenda. This is, I think, the 3rd or 4th time we've had this on the agenda, and we've had multiple speakers come down, and anybody's had the ability to sign up and speak on this item. And we've heard numerous testimony on both sides of the aisle. And it's not our job to take sides. It's our job to do what is right for this city at this time. And I believe I will definitely be voting for the UDC because I think it is the right thing for us to do, and we can continue to move forward with this document. Thank you, Mr. President.
And other council members? And other council members? I would just want to just conclude and just say, you know, pretty much, you know, I'd like to think she's not a citizen here no more, but Ms. Debbie Foster for, you know, leading the charge, especially, you know, along the peninsula, and also the Peninsula Group and many other groups throughout District 3 for working along with Ms. Shayla Biko and her staff and administration. And I also like to thank Ms. Shayla Biko and her staff and administration. You know, as some of my colleagues stated, especially Mr. Days, some things in there I don't care for, you know, either, you know, as a personal person and as a business. But, you know, it's, a lot of times you just have to negotiate, you know, things, especially in life, you know, and as far as into the citizens in, you know, Sandtown, you know, one of the questions I asked during pre-council, you know, is the residents going to be protected, you know, and, you know, and also Councilman Carroll asked the same question, and it seemed like, you know, Ms. Biko, and I understand what she was doing because of, you know, legal stuff, but it's just point blank, yes or no. I mean, just tell us, you know, And, you know, a lot of the property over there is R1. You got to go back to zoning. You know, it got to come back to the council. You know, it got to, you know, and then that's my most important thing is the residents. Even though I am a business owner, but again, I know the residents, and not the residents of District 7, the residents of District 3, but the residents of period is the reason why, you know, I'm here. But as long as they are protected, that's my main point. But again, you know, we got to move forward. We got to have a better city. We're not in the 19th century no more. We're trying to aim towards the 21st century. And again, I do thank the administration. I do thank the, again, Ms. Pico. I know she might go home and drink some wine tonight, you know, and if this was to pass, you know. But again, to the citizens and the community of Sandtown, I do understand, especially the lady that said she was living over there for 83 years. You know, I am willing, more than willing, and ready to work along with Councilman Carroll, and Ms. Gregory to, you know, put up some, you know, safe zones there. It's safe, but I understand that you need another reassurance there. And you have my word, what's the name of the community? Sandtown. It's been a long day. That I am willing to work with to make sure that some safe zones are being there for y'all reassurance. Okay?
Mr. President.
Mr. Carroll.
Well, since everybody's made a statement there, let's give Ms. Gregory some credit here for willing to reach out to Sandtown and establish the safe zone. That in itself, getting the will to get it established and make sure it happens is what allows me to vote in favor of this today, knowing that the residents of Sandtown will be protected, knowing that a system will be in place that makes the residents feel comfortable and the citizens of the city in that area feel comfortable. As I stated before, there are some things that I really don't agree with. 2 sets of rules for varying entities just don't sit very well for me. 2 sets of sidewalk rules don't sit well with me. A lot of things that are allowed with one group should be allowed for all groups. And some of that just doesn't float with me very well. And I've said this before, but knowing that the residents out there are going to be protected, encroachments will be protected, and knowing that hopefully we can get to a way that they feel comfortable that their community will thrive for now until prosperity, I'm okay with that. So let's move forward. Let's also find some ways to correct some of the things that we've been talking about after the fact as we move forward with this to make sure that all parts of the UDC fit with what we're trying to do in the city.
And just for reassurance for the Sandtown community, don't forget the veterinary, what happened a couple years ago. The council was there for y'all. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Mr. President.
Mr. Jones.
I would like to, in light of, you know, the conversation that's been had today with Sandtown, and knowing that we are working towards a safe zone. I mentioned earlier a moratorium on any construction on those properties that are owned by those residents. I would like to go ahead and make a motion that we input or enact a moratorium until such time as that safe zone is developed by Ms. Gregory and this council. And I don't know legally what we need to do with that, but I would like to go ahead and put that on the table officially.
We'd have to come up with a resolution for that.
Okay.
All right, can we have that ready by next week?
I mean, what do you want to say exactly?
That there will be no, any future building within the Sandtown community until such time as the safe zone is the architecture for that safe zone is established, and this would be inclusive of
you can't have I don't think you can have an open-ended
Well, we'll do it 6 months then. We're
6
talking
months, why don't
6
you make it
months.
6 months?
We'll do it 6 months.
No building of any kind, residential?
No commercial.
No commercial building.
Mr. President.
Hmm?
Mr. President.
I already know
This
Mr.
council
Reynolds.
can take up any action it tries to.
This is out of order.
Yeah.
You know,
We
Let's
just go
just
back.
work.
Yeah, we'll work on it. Okay.
I
Madam
mean,
Clerk.
we can go back with a motion to reconsider. It only takes 3 if we need to go back.
Madam Clerk.
Resolutions held over. 01565, authorize a project terminal agreement with Mobile Airport Authority. 08566, 567, 568, and 569 are approving purchase orders to Gulf Coast Marine Supply for excavator for Forestry Department, Stivers Ford for Ford Explorium, Samsung Equipment for garbage truck, and Carasoft Technology for subscription for cloud backup software for MIT. 21570, authorized contract with Invasive Management Services for herbicide spraying. 21571 and 572 are authorizing contract with 2Cs and Best Price Services for right-of-way and ditch mowing. 21573 and 574 are authorizing contracts with Phillips Monument for hurricane repairs, gravestone repairs at Church Street Graveyard, and Johnson Controls for security camera equipment and installation at the City Probation Office. 37575, consider approval of a certificate of public convenience and necessity to Brown's non-emergency medical transportation service to operate a shuttle service.
So,
second.
Been properly moving second in the discussion.
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
Mr. Reynolds.
It's wild to think that our investment in this huge airport going to Brookley Field is one of the smaller issues we're discussing today. I think this investment will have just as big as impact of the UDC on our city. And I am firmly behind it, and I wish it very much success, and I think it's a very good use of taxpayer money.
Another discussion. I agree, Mr. Reynolds. Hopefully that this $30 million will help bring cheaper flights to Mobile. Amen.
and more direct flights. Cheaper and more direct.
All in, Mr. Day said cheaper and more direct flights. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes.
Consent resolutions being introduced 03577 through 6592.
Move to waive the rules for immediate consideration of these resolutions.
Second.
Been properly moved and second in the discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Rules waived.
I'll take everything except the structures. I'll take those separately. 03577, appoint Bar Shavers to the Mobile City County Youth Council Board. 37578, 579, and 580 are recommending approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a restaurant retail liquor license for Vandal Street Kitchen on Airport Boulevard, for issuance of a retail beer, table wine, off-premises only license for Aldi on Shillington Road, and for issuance of a restaurant retail liquor license for Roma Cafe on Airport Boulevard. 58588, 589 are authorizing removal of weeds and assessing costs for removal of weeds, groups 1628 and 1627. 6590, support citizens in seeking transparency in the hiring and dismissal process for the position of president at Bishop State Community College. 6591 and 592 are approving award of special bonus to the Parks and Recreation Employee of the Month and the Public Works at Large Employees of the Month.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and second in the discussion.
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
Ms. Gregory.
I don't know if there's his dad. I just wanted to say thank you to Bar Shavers for agreeing to serve on the Youth Council Board to represent District 7. I put this out on Facebook that I needed someone and got a very quick response. So congratulations and thank you. Be sure to tell Bar that we appreciate him agreeing to do this.
Also, I would like to speak on Resolution 60590. I'd like to thank my colleagues for getting together and producing this resolution. You know, Bishop State have been seeing several yo-yo effects of, several presidents and going through, its campus within the past several years, and was really just asking for stability, there. Our economy is growing with the expansion of Airbus and Alstom, and Bishop State is a key asset for workforce development. Even one of the speakers came down, was talking about, cultures and arts. Bishop State can handle that too, along with other things. But over the past, 3 years, Bishop State enrollment actually has went up. Higher than many, colleges around, the state, 4-year colleges around the state. The fund development dollars have increased. Business partnerships such as Alabama Power, have increased. This community college deserves leadership that can have opportunity to increase the growth of the institution. This resolution is the beginning of many conversations that needs to be had, especially in our community and in our state. A lot of crime happen in our community, especially, young people that look like me, because they don't have too many role models. And you're constantly changing, role models, leadership, who do my people that look like me actually have to look at? Or where do they have visions to go? We need someone at Bishop State that has vision for not just for Bishop State, but for our community. If I look across Alabama, just about every major city in Alabama has a HBCU, 4-year institution. Montgomery have Alabama State. Birmingham has Miles College. Huntsville have Alabama A&M. Tuscaloosa, they have Stillman. Mobile, we just got just a 2-year college, which is Bishop State. We need to have stability there at Bishop State. And this is a way in asking, for the state to look at it and help us. And again, this is not just for just the big company that's coming into, that's already here in Mobile and looking to come to Mobile, but this is for our community, to save our community, to save people, young people that look like me. And again, I do thank my colleagues for joining together and putting this resolution to get together to make sure that, we're making, noise down here and say, hey, help us out. We're not a yo-yo down here. We want to be heard. We want to be seen. Again, we're not just being heard and seen across the state. The world is actually watching Mobile. And again, we are role models, and let's continue to be role models. Is anything else from this council?
Mr. President?
Mr. Penn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I totally agree with you. When you break the word, when you think about leadership and you break that word up, you have leader, you have ship. And we need a leader to guide this ship at Bishop State. And I believe that we standing here as colleagues supporting this resolution, hopefully we'll see a major difference because there's so much opportunity that's here in the city of Mobile, and we need a strong leader at Bishop State, a consistent leader. So to my colleagues, thank you as well as being a part of this resolution.
Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Resolution passes.
40, 581, 582, 583, and 584, declaring the structures at 1109 Adams Street, 1110 Adams Street, 255 Clay Street, 209 Lexington Avenue, public nuisances and ordering them demolished.
Motion to lay over 60 days.
Second. Been properly moved and second in discussion.
We're laying over all of them?
No.
Just
I thought we were just going to lay over 255.
They're all in. I need to look at them. We'll be fine. We've got that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Those items laid over for 60 days.
40, 585, declare the structure at 1700 B Michigan Avenue a public nuisance and order it demolished. And 40, 587, declare the structure at 2017 Marion Drive a public nuisance and order it demolished.
Hold up. Oh, let me just bring it to the table. Second. Discussion. It's supposed to be I'm sorry, it's supposed to be 586 laid over for 90 days.
I didn't read that one yet.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry,
He didn't
okay.
read that one.
So 585, we supposed to lay out, that,
Oh, you wanted to lay yours up? I didn't.
no, 586 is the one that's supposed to be laid over.
Right, I haven't read. I'm reading
Okay.
585 and 587.
Okay, 585 is good to go.
Okay, 585 and 587 are
Oh,
to
okay.
go now.
Okay, I apologize. Okay, end of the discussion. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Been a
40.
long day, I'm sorry.
586, declare the structure at 1101 South Broad Street a public nuisance and order it demolished.
Move to laid over for 90 days.
Yes.
Second.
Properly moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item laid over for 90 days.
CIP resolutions being introduced 09593 through 01594.
By council rules, these resolutions will be laid over with the,
No.
these will be laid, be laid over for 1 week.
Resolutions being introduced 01595 through 21599.
Per council rules, these will lay over for 1 week with the exception of 21-599.
Been properly moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Madam Clerk.
21599, authorized contract with LTS Development Group for demolition of the structure at 2775 Spring Hill Avenue.
Salute.
Second.
Yeah, you need to waive the rules for immediate consideration.
Well, I said with the
Well,
Motion to waive the rules for immediate consideration.
Oh, okay.
It's been a long meeting.
Yeah, I tell you. Oh,
Second.
Second.
yeah, that's fine.
All right. Properly moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay, so 21599, authorized contract with LTS Development Group for demolition of the structure at 2775 Spring Hill Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Resolution passed.
Announcements.
Anything from the administration? Anything from? Oh. You sure? Anything from District 4?
No announcements.
Anything from District 1?
Yes, we will have our community meeting for the crying community at Kiwanis Boys and Girls Club tonight at 6 p.m. So we're inviting everyone out to come out to our community meeting tonight. Also, we will have a community tour with Mob Music Festival at Figures Park on tomorrow, 7/13 Wednesday at the Figures Community Center from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. And again, I would like to remind you about our, the city is also putting on a community days in District 1 on that Thursday. So we got a busy day in District 1 with free food, entertainment, and resources. And then on this past weekend, I had an opportunity to attend the Kids Day with my kids, of course. So I want to thank Mobile Parks and Recs for coming to Dodge Community Center, Michael Dow Amphitheater. We had a great time. They gave out free gifts. Kids received toys. So thank you, Mobile Parks and Recs, for everything that you all are doing. And great things to happen in District 1.
All right. Anything from District 6?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. We'll have the neighborhood and HOA leadership meeting tonight at SADS on University at 6 p.m. And just want to shout out to Austell. Penn and I were over there yesterday, joined Congressman Carl, some other distinguished guests as they made the first steel cut, starting to build steel ships, which was quite a vision and investment for Austell. That was new to them. But that also, that vision allowed them, I think probably most everybody in here hopefully has seen the news that Coast Guard now has awarded Austell a contract for up to $3.3 billion coming through that same facility. And it started with the vision of putting steel here. So they're building 2 ships, I think, this year, and the Navy's looking at more in the following year. So kudos to them, and great news again from Mobile, and all the more reason we need that airport moved.
Okay. In District 3. District 2?
No, thank you, Mr. President.
District 5? Vice President?
Thank you, Mr. President. District 7 will also be hosting the Mob Performing Arts Festival. It will be this Thursday, July 14th, from noon until 4. It will be at the Hillsdale Recreation Center, and the theme is A Conversation for Kids.
And speaking of the Mob Music Festival and tour, it's going on actually now in Newhouse Park. I get over there sometime around about 4 o'clock. Yeah, about 4:30. At least show my face between 4 and 5. On today at Newhouse Park, which is located off the Dolphin Island Parkway, and also have a community meeting tonight. Oakdale having that community meeting at Smalls at 5:30 this evening. So I have a busy evening this evening. Anything else from this council? Can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Been properly moved, second in discussion.